What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty. Join my Discord if you want to chat and share your thoughts, the link is in the description. 7MP Chapter 151 Causal Reversal, Great Toad Sage's Terrifying Ability, 3/4, please subscribe. Faced with the incoming crystal spear, Lynn naturally controlled the truth-seeking ball and turned it into a shield to block in front of him. The crystal gun is flying, and China Unionpay approves the person who covers the feather clothes. However, just as Toad Sage's prophecy-like words rhymed, Lynn was horrified to find that the crystal spear had disappeared. At the same time, Lynn could clearly feel the pain of his body being pierced. He lowered his head subconsciously, and then he saw the blood-stained crystal gun that had sunk into his chest at some point. His body was instantly eroded by the huge sage jutsu chara contained in the crystal gun, and a huge sense of powerlessness descended in an instant. And along with the feeling that his life force was gradually being drawn away from his body, Lynn also made a subconscious reaction almost instinctively, 3/9. Return of Reincarnation Reverse. The blue light of the samsara eyes in Otsutsuki's eyes beside him flickered, and the time centered on Lynn also began to reverse in this moment. Laugh. So the shining crystal spear also flew out of his body at the next moment, and Lynn's pierced chest was also restored to its original state at this time. And Lynn didn't hesitate, and immediately retreated towards the rear. What is this? And I have to say that Lynn at this time is almost the most panicked since he came to this world. Because he had never felt before that death was so close to him. To put it bluntly, as long as his reaction was a little bit slower and he didn't control Otsutsuki's ability to use his abilities, he would be instantly killed by the blow he just went around. Moreover, Lynn couldn't understand the blow just stitched. He couldn't understand how the crystal spear hit him. With the power of Tensai and Samsara, he can be sure that he has completely captured the trajectory and speed of the crystal spear flying in the air. Advertisement, but in that seemingly momentary time, the crystal spear hit him directly like that. It's about the kind of prophecy he just sowed. Therefore, in almost a moment, Lynn confirmed the prophecy made by Fang Ji of the Great Toad Sage, which should be the source of Gang Ji's thrilling blow. And if you think about it carefully, the Great Toad Sage had said a similar prophecy at the beginning of the battle, and after he said, "Here, the immortals have returned from twilight," his power seems to have recovered to a difficult year, the heyday before. So Lynn's heart also had a terrible guess at this time. In the original book, Great Toad Sage has the ability to predict the future, and often makes some extremely accurate predictions. The longest predictions are still achieved even across the rough years. Lynn originally believed that the prophecy of the other party should be similar to some kind of unique talent ability of him, and it should be uncontrollable. But now it seems that this is not the case, and it was just when Lynn was thinking about it, the Great Toad Sage on the other side saw that the previous blow had not succeeded, and immediately fished again. Sage Art Badwater Slash. With the completion of its seal, it is a huge water column when it opens its mouth. That water column also contains Sage Jutsu Chara, and at the same time it was sprayed out, it formed a sharp posture like a big sword, and then it flew towards Lynn again. And this time, Lynn was more direct. The 6 truth-seeking balls behind Otsutsuki flew directly to his side and completely shrouded his body in the truth-seeking balls. But in this case, the water blade is in the air, and after a breath, 2 paragraphs of people who cover the feathers are approved. The words of the Great Toad Sage fell, and then, wow! As soon as the previous pain and huge sense of powerlessness came, Lynn realized that his body was directly divided into 2. The reincarnation of the current and the reverse. Advertisement, but almost the same picture as before appeared, and as time went back, Lynn's body returned to its previous state after a while. Really, after this confirmation, he was almost certain that the nature of the opponent's blow was definitely not any kind of ninjutsu he knew. But soon, reason told Xiao Lin that the opponent's ability could not really be so invincible. If his guess is true, then this ability of the Great Toad Sage is as unreasonable as the bounce your rebound, when a child is playing a game. And this limitation is my chance to win. Truth-seeking ball can't be avoided either. Samsara and Tensai can't see it all. This is not a time-space ninjutsu. Although even Lynn, who was diligent in guessing, couldn't believe it, this was undoubtedly the only explanation. This attack method just following the Great Toad Sage is beyond the scope of normal ninjutsu, but has reached a very strange field. His abilities must be limited. 2.6. If this is the case, then his ability is too perverted. No, there must be a flaw. 99. Thank you for reading this story at fictionzone.net. Your support enables us to keep the site running. And even Lynn, whose growth rate has always been called a monster, couldn't help but feel a chill in his heart at this time. But this is not the case here in the Great Toad Sage. His strange power seems to reverse, cause, and effect. It is as if 2 people are fighting, one swings the knife, but whether the knife hits or not depends on the speed and strength of the swing, as well as the strength of the opponent. Any attack is bound to hit and the opponent can't even defend, who can fight him? It's like the inquiry and law follow. In some novels, what he said prophesied must happen. This is the power to reverse the cause and effect. In other words, from the moment he swung the rhyme of his sword, hit was already an inevitable thing in his prophecy. No matter how Lynn, the enemy, tried to defend or evade, it could not change the result. At this time, Yi Lin's expression was no longer as panicked as before, although the pain and the feeling of imminent death were indeed still haunting his mind, he has now regained his composure. Chapter 152, Puppet Transformation. Golden Wheel Reborn. 4 quarters, please subscribe. Yi Lin certainly knew that the seemingly invincible ability of the Great Toad Sage was bound to be limited. Otherwise, when he faced Kaguya in the past, he wouldn't have to join forces with the Sage of Six Paths brothers to seal it. Wouldn't it be simpler and more direct to kill each other with a prophecy? However, when Yi Lin was thinking secretly in his heart, the attack of the Great Toad Sage came again. As always, Sage Jutsu, as always prophesied, every time it was enough to cause Yi Lin to be hit hard in an instant, and then it was restored with the help of the Otsutsuki Moon Puppet's ability to go back in time. And it was in this kind of back-and-forth attack that Yi Lin felt the pain of death every time, but also quickly discovered the problem of this ability used by the Great Toad Sage. First of all, every time he uses the prophecy, the opal in the rosary hanging on his chest will emit a green light. Second, although the prediction ability of the Great Toad Sage is almost certain to hit after it is launched, it seems that he cannot control the specific location of its 06 attack. Third, every prediction of the Great Toad Sage has some obvious characteristic points. Fourth, and the most important point, the prophetic ability of the Great Toad Sage seems to have a CD too. After repeatedly fighting several times, Yi Lin had already discovered this. There seems to be a gap between each use of the opponent's prophetic ability and it cannot be used continuously. And it's a coincidence that its use interval is almost exactly the same as Otsutsuki's reverse ability interval, which is about 8 seconds. My puppet is really the nemesis of this Great Toad Sage ability. So Yi Lin sighed slightly in his heart. If it wasn't for this amazing coincidence, he would have already died under the terrifying power of prophecy of the Great Toad Sage. But at the same time, Yi Lin also knew that this situation could not continue forever. Because although Otsutsuki, the primordial puppet, has almost infinite energy at the bottom of 10 tails, Zara Kabuto, but Yi Lin himself is not. Now that 10 tails is absorbed by the primordial puppet, the chara he uses is from the long-lost Shuhei uncle. So if he continues to consume it, he will most likely consume chara first. On the other hand, while Yi Lin was observing the Great Toad Sage's ability, the Great Toad Sage was naturally also paying attention to Yi Lin. At this time, the Great Toad Sage's horizontal pupils, which belonged to toads, also flashed a solemn and serious meaning. Is it the power of time? 22. At his level, he naturally has his own opinions on the power of all things. Therefore, in these few fights, he has also seen the details of the abilities that Otsutsuki uses. Does her Reincarnation Eye have the unique ability? Advertisement. The Great Toad Sage did not know the identity of Otsutsuki, but he was clearly aware of the restraint of the opponent's ability. It can be said that if Otsutsuki is not resolved, then he is bound to be unable to resolve the opponent in a short period of time with his own abilities. And once the battle is dragged into the tug-of-war between chara, the outcome is really unknown. Sage Art Frog Thunder Sound. So at this time, I saw that Sage Jutsu Chara suddenly gathered in the mouth of Great Toad Sage, and then he opened his mouth and roared with a heavy frog like thunder. And that huge sound turned into a sound wave that almost condensed into substance, heading towards the moon Otsutsuki. At the same time, the Great Toad Sage activates the ability of prophecy at the same time. The sound of thunder is rolling, and the girl with black hair and blue eyes is in the middle. At the same time when the prophecy was launched, the sound wave with huge destructive power was about to hit Otsutsuki. But it was at this time. 99. The Great Toad Sage was surprised to find that his prophecy did not succeed this time. The sound wave that was heading towards the moon Otsutsuki did not hit directly. And the Great Toad Sage looked closely, and even saw the drastic changes that occurred in Otsutsuki. Her originally pitch black hair slowly turned golden at this time, and her figure also changed from a young girl to a teenager in a moment. At this time, the reincarnation eyes in his eyes remained unchanged. Shen Luo Tianzheng. He raised his hand, and Shen Luo Tianzheng launched. I boom. The huge repulsion collided with the flying sound waves and both dissipated. At the same time, Great Toad Sage always finds that Yi Lin, who was standing beside Otsutsuki, has disappeared. From behind him, there was already an explosive terrifying chara. Golden Wheel, reincarnated. In his hands, a full 9 truth-seeking balls turned into a golden giant sword that covered the sky and the sun, and the terrifying power of the hook was slowly erupting. And this is also the most powerful attack of Tensigen, the Golden Wheel reincarnation explosion, which is capable of severing the moon with one blow. Advertisement. I have seen through your abilities. At this time, Yi Lin's words were full of confidence. Yes, he was right in his previous thoughts. The prophecy of the Great Toad Sage is almost invincible, but it is limited by the content of the prophecy itself. For example, for Yi Lin, what he used is, the man with the silver pupil approving the feather coat. This is the appearance of Yi Lin's reincarnation Eye Chara mode. But when he launched a prophecy to the puppet Otsutsuki, the situation was different. Because, host successfully used the D-level item, puppet transformation, sexual police. Host successfully used the D-level item, puppet transformation, hairstyle. That's right, these two Yi Lin have been obtained from a long time ago, 393, and have always regarded them as waste, rubbish props is the biggest reason why Lynn can take the lead now. Because you must know that Fantong's transformation of puppets is really a transformation in essence. And Lynn also used the ability of these two props to make the prophecy of the Great Toad Sage invalid once. What he predicted was a girl with black hair and blue eyes, and the transformed Otsutsuki month was obviously the same as this one. The prophecy is wrong. And that is the failure of this prophecy. For the 6 paths level battle, it is enough to become the key to decide the outcome. Return of Samsara. Stop. Just when the Great Toad Sage was about to retreat immediately in the face of Lynn's terrifying golden reincarnation, Otsutsuki's ability to stop time instantly stopped him from moving. Although the effect of this time-stopping ability is obviously not as effective for the Great Toad Sage as for the Konaha ninjas, it still makes it difficult for him to make any movements in this moment. And followed by Samsara backwards, enter, Otsutsuki reached out to Lynn again. With the light in Samsara's eyes shining, the time around Lynn seems to be twisting at this moment. So the next moment. Buzz. With the terrifying speed brought about by the acceleration of time, the golden giant sword that covered the sky and the sun in Lynn's hands fell down. Chapter 153 The Talisman of the Immortal. The Origin of Mount Myoboku. 1/4, please subscribe. The truth-seeking ball turns around and drives a huge Zara that is enough to destroy everything, and the golden Zara giant sword falls down like a weapon that opened up the world. As the strongest move of Tenseisan, the Golden Wheel Reincarnation Blast undoubtedly demonstrates the power of Tenseisan as the Eye of God, just like Samsara Eye. Just in the direction pointed by the blade, a huge amount of Chara wiped out everything. Chara's signature flow creates a huge vibrato in the air, even twisting all the space around its blade. But more importantly, it is actually the ability of reincarnation and progress, given by Otsutsuki. The actual meaning of this ability is accelerating time, and the acceleration of time itself cannot be observed. If it should be described in terms of physical phenomena, then it is a speed that seems to move in an instant. Just like the Great Toad Sage at this time, he didn't even have time to react. He saw that huge golden wheel reincarnation explosion fell in front of him from a very high distance in an instant. The golden wheel is reborn. And the Great Toad Sage, who also fought alongside Otsutsuki Hamura in the past, naturally saw the power of this blow with his own eyes. So he also knew that even if he lived in Mount Myoboku for so many years with the Sage Jutsu Chara and immortal body, if he was hit directly in front of this blow, he would definitely die. And when his body was bound by the immobility of time, it was difficult to move quickly, and at the same time the attack had come to him. Great Toad Sage could only make a choice that he had tried his best to keep before. Yuya, I have to use that trick. While murmuring the name of an old friend silently in his heart, Great Toad Sage stretched out his fisherman without hesitation and grabbed the opal in the center of the rosary bead on his chest. Even if time stood still, he couldn't do it. Move at a high speed or dodge, but after all, he is a 6 paths level powerhouse, but it is still possible for him to perform such small actions. And at the moment of grabbing the opal, Great Toad Sage squeezed it hard. Taste. So the opal that he had been wearing on his body for nearly a decade, also cracked and shattered in the next moment. Buzz. Advertisement, and from the broken opal, a strange talisman was also hooked. The surface of the amulet was as green as jade, and it was engraved with strange runes and a huge character. On the surface of the talisman, there is a green crystal, fairy oil, which flows continuously, and looks extremely miraculous. And Lynn's seemingly unstoppable golden wheel reincarnated and exploded like the blade of a giant god, but also slowly melted and dissolved in front of the power of the shears emitted by this talisman, turning into the most primitive chakra. That is. But Lynn naturally did not expect that he had already found such a good opportunity, but the Great Toad Sage actually had the means to turn the tables. So at this time, he also looked at the amulet with a solemn expression. The talisman of the fairy. As for the talisman itself, Lynn recognized it at a glance. It was the Immortal Talisman that was inquired about in the original animation. It is said to be the treasure of the Toad family. However, since this thing itself was only briefly mentioned in the animation, and did not say a word about it at all, Lynn also remembered the existence of such a thing after seeing this thing. And from the current point of view, this thing is obviously a no-brainer, because Great Toad Sage used the opal stone when using its abilities before, and this fairy talisman is exactly what is contained in the opal stone. So in other words, this thing is the Great Toad Sage's most precious trump card? It was while Lynn was thinking about it, Great Toad Sage also gently held the fairy talisman in his hand. In his eyes, there is also some depression and nostalgia at this time. I hope my choice is correct, he spoke in a low voice. As the owner of this immortal talisman, he naturally knows the origin of this immortal talisman. In fact, this talisman is the ultimate source of all Mount Myoboku heritage. Advertisement. It was when it was an ordinary little toad that came to Mount Myoboku by chance. In the past, after successfully sealing Kaguya, he also made a promise with his close friend and disciple Otsutsuki Hagoromo. The second time, he achieved near immortality with the help of the near infinite natural energy in this fairy talisman, which was something that even the Otsutsuki brothers could not do. Mouth, because he once tried to predict with the help of the power of the fairy talisman, and found that whether it was the mysterious Otsutsuki Yi or the sealed Otsutsuki Kaguya, he could not observe and predict the fate line of the two. Good promise good. For the first time, he saved the life of Otsutsuki Hamura by using the powerful power within this talisman. He went from an ordinary little toad to a toad sage. And he found a green sen's pond in the core central area of Mount Myoboku. It is precisely because part of its power infiltrates into the underground water source of Mount Myoboku that it will turn the water source of Mount Myoboku into fairy oil. So they agreed that once Otsutsuki Kagaya reunited in the future, the third chance to use this talisman would be the keycard to defeat and reseal her. With the help of his growing power, he gradually absorbed all the power in the most essence of the immortal pond, with secret techniques, and contained it into this small fairy talisman. Thank you for reading this story at fictionzone.net. Your support enables us to keep the site running. It's a greenish-green liquid that is completely different from Mount Myoboku's normal celestial oil, and is the source of the entire Mount Myoboku's natural energy. However, because the power sealed in it was too powerful, the great toad sage himself could only unseal the power of this talisman 3 times. The little toad, who didn't understand anything at that time, was attracted by the power in the immortal pond and jumped down, and then enlightened his wisdom in it, and obtained the power he is using now. But now, he had to unblock this immortal talisman before Otsutsuki Kagaya worked hard. 6 Paths Sage Art Array of Equality. Later, he established the Temple of Oil on this Shienjichi, and developed the Mount Myoboku lineage. Chapter 154 Kill, Great Toad Sage, 2/4, please subscribe. 6 Paths Sage Art Array of Equality. As the words of Great Toad Sage fell, the immortal talisman in his hand also instantly emitted a bright green light. At the same time, Lynn could clearly feel that all the natural energies in Mount Myoboku seemed to vibrate at the same time. Boom! The water flow in the 4 surrounding Shenyu waterfalls began to spread chaotically, and the rocks and soil below began to crack and shake. At this moment, the rich natural energy madly swept through everything around it like a riot, and the excessively exaggerated concentration even made it difficult for the sun to shoot down. Especially Lynn can clearly feel that these natural energies are not random surging, but still maintain some strange rules in the chaos. And without a doubt, it was some kind of enchantment he had never seen before, ninjutsu. A terrifying barrier that uses Mount Myoboku in the 3 great immortal lands as the barrier and uses the natural energy of the entire Mount Myoboku as barrier energy. And the power possessed by this terrifying enchantment is also manifested almost in a moment. Lynn clearly felt that the maintenance of the Teensalam chakra mode that he had been maintaining in 393 was uncontrollably dissipated at this moment. Even his Tensigen had returned to its original appearance at this time. In addition, the reincarnation eye of the primordial puppet, Otsutsuki Moon, beside him also encountered almost the same thing. The reincarnation eye also degenerated back to the ordinary eye at this time, and the 10 tails chara on it seems to be it is also restricted and generally can no longer be used. On the other hand, after stimulating the power of the fairy talisman, the state of the great toad sage is also extremely bad. The power of his heyday, which he had regained through the power of prophecy, has obviously declined due to the unsealing of the talisman, so that the old toad has changed back to the old wrinkled and old man before he knew it, looks like. And although there is no Tensigen, Lynn can also be sure that the other party is more old now than it was at the beginning. Advertisement obviously, unlocking the power of the talisman of the immortal, AGCG, person is definitely an extremely laborious task even for the great toad sage. This was originally prepared for Otsutsuki Kagaya, but, Otsutsuki Knight, if you can use this talisman to solve you, it is not in vain. And between his whispers, what he said also made Lynn's heart sink. What was originally prepared for Otsutsuki Kagaya, that is to say, the great toad sage is very confident, and the barrier he is using now can be called killer copper even for Kagaya. I and Yui and Hamura have studied the power essence of your ethnic group, as well as the characteristics of Tensai and Samsara. Your eyes and physical abilities are almost impossible to infuse, but the power you use is still Cha. The energy your body needs to recover is Chara, what your truth-seeking ball cohesion needs is Chara, and even if you just open your eyes, you need Chara as an aid. 99. This array of equality can turn all the surrounding chakras into natural energy, except for the Sage Jutsu chakras born out of natural energy. All chakras cannot be used. 99. The Great Toad Sage directly revealed the core content of this Fang Tianping array. Of course, part of the reason for this was because he couldn't keep his mouth shut after returning to his old state. But the more reason, naturally, is still diligent in his self-confidence in this formation. With the help of the Immortal Talisman and the natural energy stored in the entire Mount Myoboku over the countless years, he can be sure that even Kagaya cannot escape the influence of this formation. And as long as Zara can be used, it means that neither Blood Follower snares nor Eye of Reincarnation, or higher level powers can be used. On the other hand, the Great Toad Sage, as the user of Sage Jutsu Zara, can no longer use the prophecy effect given by the talisman despite its power decline due to the unsealing of the talisman. But it can still use Sage Jutsu Chara, and is still an unquestionable SSS level powerhouse. Then let's end this. Sage Art Toad Water Bomb of advertisement, and it was at this moment that Xiao Yelin's last words came to his ears. At the same time, the huge power of the scissors exploded behind Lynn's body, which caused huge doubts to run through his mind. He had clearly determined that he successfully used the array of equality, so why could Yi Lin still use his power? And the great toad sage, who has survived for a long time, almost instinctively smelled the breath of the long-lost, imminent death. Toad, do you know what your biggest mistake was? Thank you for reading this story at fictionzone.net. Your support enables us to keep the site running. Until this time, even with his knowledge, he couldn't understand what was going on. And just when the great toad sage raised his head and was about to end Yi Lin, who had completely lost his ability to resist. Your vision is still too narrow. The next moment, Yi Lin's spirit sun's light of destruction penetrated it impressively. You have two biggest mistakes, and until the body was penetrated by the light of the destruction of the spiritual child, great toad sage's expression still remained sluggish and horrified. At the same time as the words fell, Yi Lin also raised his hand slightly and pointed to the great toad sage. In the palm of his hand, a spiritual child that contained the power of pure to extreme destruction also condensed instantly. And when he instinctively looked sideways, he saw Yi Lin, who had been hooked behind him at some point. Omniscient and almighty, power, spirit sun destroys. Second, first, you shouldn't use this formation to cancel my Tensigan Chara mode. The sudden voice behind him made great toad sage's pupils shrink. Chapter 155 Sage of Six Paths is coming. 3/4, please subscribe. Seeing the great toad sage that was gradually losing his voice in front of him, Yi Lin's face did not show much joy. Just like what he had just said to the great toad sage, he himself did not expect the battle to end in this way. Needless to say, Yi Lin finally used his last chance to use his Uebok temporary puppet material, and successfully solved the great toad sage. What I have to say is that Yi Lin actually never planned to use this temporary puppet material. After all, in fact, this temporary puppet material has always been one of the biggest trump cards in his hands. Even after the primordial puppet, the combat power provided by this puppet is still the strongest. And he originally came to Mount Myoboku just to confirm whether Mount Myoboku has the relevant information about the body of the immortal, but if it is really not possible, he originally planned to directly teleport away. But he also didn't expect that the great toad sage's array of equality in the end actually made his Tensigan Chara mode invalid. In other words, great toad sage saw what he really looked like, and this was absolutely unacceptable to Yi Lin. To know that he has walked in the ninja world so far, the reason why he has been able to do almost no last resort, the biggest advantage is that while he has disturbed the entire ninja world with his own power, his own existence has been unknown. The king of spirits, the king of ghosts, and the king of emptiness are a lot of vests, so that no one in the ninja world knows his own existence. Of course, theoretically, Yi Lin doesn't need to be so feared now. After all, even if the ninja world knew about his actual situation, compared with the power of the ninja world and the strength of the puppet and puppet realm at hand, he really was not afraid. But the key point is that Yi Lin is still a place where the ninja world can still be used. Ten Tails' recovery and the rebirth of Senluo's fruit are inseparable from the ninja world, and his intelligence sources for various things also need to rely on forbearance. The ghost spies of the moon shortage in the world. So Yi Lin didn't even think about it, so he just used up the last opportunity to use Uebok. As for what happened next, it was naturally a matter of course. The cards that Great Toad Sage and Sage of Six Paths have prepared for years are of course no problem. It's not a means of attack or defense, but directly from the essence of ninja power. It can be said that the undoubted Six Paths enchantment of the equality of 10,000 heavens is definitely enough to be called the trump card of crushing the ninja world. Under this barrier, even the Eye of Reincarnation will be sealed, and even the innate physique of the Otsutsugi clan will inevitably be affected. After all, the undead physique of the Otsutsugi clan is essentially absorbing the investigation of the surrounding environment, pull to restore. So Yi Lin has no doubts, just as they expected, even Kaguya will definitely feel a headache in the face of this enchantment. Advertisement. But what happened to Great Toad Sage was Yi Lin. And you must know that among the puppets Yi Lin used, the only one who really used Zara was the primordial puppet beside him. As for the other puppets, without exception, they only use Chara as an energy source, and they actually use the abilities of their own world. And this huge flaw, just as Yi Lin's evaluation, Great Toad Sage's vision of belonging to this world has always restricted him. Yi Lin believed that this immortal who had existed for more than a difficult year definitely had other moves that he did not use, but the flaws in his vision had led to his current downfall. However, if the three immortal lands are all at this level, then you really have to be a little more careful in the future. But on the other hand, Yi Lin also raised vigilance in his heart. Mount Myoboku is only one of the three immortal lands, but the power of the hook displayed by the Great Toad Sage has exceeded his expectations. It can be said that if it wasn't for the power of his primordial puppet to a certain extent just restraining Great Toad Sage's ability to predict, he would probably have been knocked out by the opponent in the first round. And then Yi Lin's victory also had a lot of luck elements, whether it was Great Toad Sage's trump card, equality of 10,000 heavens that was invalid for him, or Great Toad Sage's slight laziness caused by being pinched and killed, there is an element of luck. So for a while, Yi Lin's vigilance towards the so-called three immortal lands was naturally raised to the extreme. Since they are also called the three great immortal lands, they should at least have the same level of power. While thinking about it in his heart, Yi Lin also raised his hand to take the fairy amulet that still radiated powerful energy from the body of the Great Toad Sage, which was gradually losing its life. Later, he even planned to directly restrain the body of the Great Toad Sage. This is the body of an absolute SSS level powerhouse, and it can't be wasted. But it is also at this time 0 for flowers. Boom! Above the sky, a flash of lightning suddenly appeared. And with this huge lightning strike, Yi Lin's expression changed instantly. Because at this time, with the death of Great Toad Sage, his Tenseiden also naturally resumed its function. So at this time, he also clearly saw that the sudden flashing lightning above the 1x1 was not born naturally, but with an extremely powerful chara. Advertisement, Toad Pills. The sound contained a frightened and angry voice coming from the sky, and the familiar power of aura, which made Yi Lin instantly recognize the owner of this power. It's Sage of Six Paths. Under such circumstances, it would be irrational to continue fighting the Sage of Six Paths again. Yi Lin knew with his toes that the power of the ancestor of the ninja world would be stronger than that of the Great Toad Sage. But now, with the death of the Great Toad Sage, the Sixth Sage of Six Paths apparently can't sit still. So, along with the complicated teleportation channel, he appeared behind him in an instant, and he directly took the primordial puppet and swept into it, loss. The wind is tight, scream. Yi Lin also instantly understood that this was the power of Sage of Six Paths for this familiar chara who once caught a glimpse on the moon and then sensed it again during the Three Tails event. And more importantly, this time is very different from the previous two because along with this lightning streak, obvious space twists began to appear in the sky. He hadn't seen it before, so he should have confidence in the Great Toad Sage. Thank you for reading this story at fictionzone.net. Your support enables us to keep the site running. Yi Lin didn't even think about it at all, and didn't even care about the huge body of the Great Toad Sage. But he could also understand what it was. He killed the Great Toad Sage, and the two are Six Paths level powerhouses, and the battle itself did not take place in a different space such as the Puppet Realm, so the Sage of Six Paths Induction Ninja Realm can naturally find it. 97. So, having already fought the Great Toad Sage once, he was already at a great loss, and the final hole card, Yuhabak Temporary Puppet, was also used. It's not just a test, he is really coming this time. But just at a glance, Yi Lin was sure that this was no longer the first two simple temptations, but a sign that Sage of Six Paths was really coming. Chapter 156 Six Paths reappears, the wind and rain are rising, 4 quarters, please subscribe. That is, when Yi Lin decided to give up the body of the Great Toad Sage and run away. The space was torn apart by a gigantic chara that could almost be said to penetrate the sky. From the space rift, an old man in white with reincarnation eyes, holding the truth-seeking ball tin stick in his hand, also slowly emerged from it, hook shape. Similar to the Yumura remnant that Yi Lin had seen before, his body was also composed of pure chara. But compared to Hamura, the Sage of Six Paths left behind so much chara, that his body was almost the same as that of a real police officer. At this time, the Sage of Six Paths finally re-entered the ninja world after a long time, but his expression at this time was full of huge anger. Boom! 93 Looking at the Great Toad Sage, who had fallen to the ground and had lost its life, his anger caused the surrounding Zerila to riot, so that the entire Mount Myoboku seemed to fall for his anger at this moment. His anger is also natural. The Great Toad Sage taught him the use of 393, Sage Jutsu and the inheritance of Sage Mode, which became his greatest source of strength against Kagaya in the past. Otherwise, his power itself comes from Kagaya, and naturally he can't fight against Kagaya. The two fight together and support each other through hundreds of battles. It can be said that they are both teachers and friends in the true sense. But now, he came back to the ninja world after many years, but the first scene he didn't expect to see was to witness the death of his best friend with his own eyes. However, it can only be said that Sage of Six Paths is Sage of Six Paths. At this time, between his reincarnation eyes, he saw a translucent void soul slowly floating above the body of Great Toad Sage. And that soul is not a policeman, it is the dead Great Toad Sage. Feathercoat. After seeing the Sage of Six Paths in front of him, Great Toad Sage's expression was also slightly stunned. Afterwards, it also showed a somewhat gloomy look. You used Shirela? Yep. Sage of Six Paths nodded. I sensed that you used the Array of Equality. He was also extremely regretful at this time. In fact, he had already sensed it when the Great Toad Sage used the talisman, and he also knew that the Great Toad Sage must have encountered a very difficult enemy. But in the confidence of the Equality Array and the strength of the Great Toad Sage, he did not choose to help directly. After all, the chara he left behind could not be used indiscriminately. But when Chara, who sensed the Great Toad Sage, suddenly disappeared, it was already too late. I'm still getting old. At this time, the Great Toad Sage naturally did not blame Sage of Six Paths. This time you unblocked Zara, and it will be more difficult when she reappears. 93. Sage of Six Paths doesn't deny this. The Shirera he left behind and the Great Toad Sage's Equality Formation were the cards they had prepared to deal with the rebirth of Kagaya in the past. Advertisement. But now, the early use of these two cards is undoubtedly extremely inappropriate. Wait for you, I use Reincarnation to be born. However, Sage of Six Paths said immediately at this time. Obviously, he planned to use the Reincarnation technique to resurrect the Great Toad Sage. Do not, but at this time, the Great Toad Sage stopped him decisively. The cost of resurrecting me is too great, and even if the resurrection the talisman of the immortal has been taken away, my power will not be able to exert much effect due. Of course, he also knows the power of the reincarnation natural art, and the effect of its resurrection is essentially to extract vitality and chara from itself to supply the other party's resurrection. In other words, the stronger the resurrected object, the greater the price the caster needs to pay. And with the strength of the Great Toad Sage, even if Sage of Six Paths can resurrect him, at least most of the Zara it saves needs to be consumed. For Great Toad Sage, he didn't want to see this. At this time, Sage of Six Paths was silent after hearing the words of Great Toad Sage. He didn't want to see his old friend die like this, but he also knew that the other party's words were right. The talisman of the immortal is also the backhand left by the mother? So after a while, he also asked in an astringent voice. No, not her backhand. But the Great Toad Sage shook his head at this time. It's Otsutsuki Knight, 99. Otsutsuki Knight. And when Sage of Six Paths heard the name, its expression changed. Just as Lynn guessed, although he monitored the situation of the ninja world with Zerira, what he monitored was whether Kaguya was reborn and the existence of the Six Paths level or above. He didn't know the whole story of what happened in the ninja world. Well, he didn't die in the star disaster, but a specific situation reappeared, and the current ninja world knows more than I do. Great Toad Sage didn't explain much, and he didn't have much time to stay in the ninja world. Since you have unblocked Chara, you must at least deal with his affairs. Otherwise, if he and Kaguya come to the ninja world at the same time, then no matter which side wins, the ninja world will inevitably suffer bad luck. He just said solemnly to Sage of Six Paths, yep. Advertisement. And after hearing the words of Great Toad Sage, Sage of Six Paths' expression also seemed a little complicated. It was a complex emotion for a person named Otsutsuki Knight. It seemed to be filled with hatred and fear, but also doubts and more complex and inexplicable emotions. His strength also seems to be in a weak state, and there is a person who also has samsara eyes by his side. But even Great Toad Sage, who knew Sage of Six Paths very well, did not see the complexity in Sage of Six Paths' expression at this time. He was just trying hard to inform Sage of Six Paths of what he had learned from previous battles. Sage of Six Paths did not interrupt the Great Toad Sage either, but listened calmly throughout. After the initial anger, at this time he has recovered the calmness that he should have as the ancestor of the ninja world. This is what I know, his purpose and the reason he has hidden so far are still confused. The changes in the ninja world over the past few years, I can't see the root cause. Sometimes, even I wonder how much things are hidden behind the scenes of the ninja world that we have lived in for so many years. And when the Great Toad Sage finished all the information he had learned from the ninja world and the information he had obtained during the Battle of Fang Zhang, his soul had slowly radiated a faint white light. After feeling the change in his own soul, Great Toad Sage also shook his head. Let go of my soul. The time has come, I should also go to the pure land of bliss. 9. Obviously, this big toad who has lived for a long time does not take life and death so seriously. Well, 39. After hearing the words of Great Toad Sage, Sage of Six Paths also nodded slightly, and then released the power of Samsara Eye. As a result, as the Big Toad 2.6 Toad Immortal Soul radiated a larger white light, its soul also slowly disintegrated into wisps of light. And in the process of collapsing, Great Toad Sage also said his last word of exhortation to stay in this world. Yuya, although I don't know the reason, I can feel the hesitation in your heart. But remember, behind you are the creatures of the entire ninja world. If things feel out of your control, be sure to use the. If that time comes, neither I nor Hamura will blame you. The words fell here, and his voice also disappeared. And Sage of Six Paths also slowly stood up after seeing Great Toad Sage's soul disappear from sight. Changes in the ninja world, behind the scenes forces, Otsutsuki Knight. Looks like I really need to get a good understanding of what's going on in the genin world. He whispered to himself, and then slowly stepped into the void, even if he disappeared without a trace. Chapter 157 Arranging the Harvest, The Inheritance of the Body of the Immortal. 14. Please subscribe. Of course, Sage of Six Paths was by no means the last guests to visit Mount Myoboku after the war. Because just half an hour after Sage of Six Paths left, the ninjas of Konaha also arrived at Mount Myoboku through the reverse summoning technique. Among them, the leader is naturally Jiraiya. This one of Konaha Sanin, who has always been rough and leafy, has an anxious and worried expression on his face at this time. Mount Myoboku is what he regards as the ancestral home of Shimon, almost his second hometown. Previously, they were affected by the stagnating power of time in Otsutsugi, and it was difficult for them to move at all. Not long ago, they were finally freed from each other's control and rushed back to Mount Myoboku. But he didn't expect that the first thing he saw after he rushed back to Mount Myoboku was such a scene. The dilapidated remnants of the surrounding area, the cracked and shattered mountains, and the Temple of Oil, which was almost completely reduced to ruins and rubble, all undoubtedly tell the cruelty of the previous 06 battle. And the body of the Great Toad Sage told them that they were late. Even the three immortal lands. Not to mention the resentment in Jiraiya's heart at this time, even Sarutobi Hiizaki, who is not so closely related to Mount Myoboku, is extremely heavy in his heart. They came a little late, and knew nothing about the situation of the battle and what had happened before. Therefore, they can only judge according to what they see in front of them. Although the 3 immortal lands are not visible in front of people, the ninja villages with a long tradition like the 5 ninja villages are somewhat aware of their existence and strengths. In particular, Konaha itself has the closest relationship with the 3 major ninja villages, and knows more about it. It can be said that the 3 immortal lands are already considered the Tianwagong forces in the true sense of the ninja world. But even the Tianwagong level police force ended up like this when they faced the 2-5 elders of the world government. With a deep sigh, Sarutobi Hiizaki worked hard to slightly improve the pessimistic attitude in his heart, and began to think about the possible impact of this incident. Advertisement on the contrary, Konaha, who was attacked first this time, did not suffer much damage, and the losses were basically concentrated on Mount Myoboku. In particular, the death of the Great Toad Sage made Hiruzen Sarutobi faintly aware of a fact. That is, the 3 immortal lands that have never participated in the dispute in the ninja world before, will definitely have a big move after this. On the other hand, Lynn, who returned from Mount Myoboku to his old lair, Jingling, certainly did not know the follow-up conversation between Sage of 6 Paths and Great Toad Sage souls, as well as the thoughts of the many ninjas in Konaha. In fact, he was extremely unhappy at this time. This is where things are going. It has to be said that the development of the matter has already exceeded Lynn's estimation at this time. He had never thought that this trip to Mount Myoboku would really kill the Great Toad Sage, let alone that Sage of 6 Paths would liberate his Chara. He doesn't know the follow-up actions of Sage of 6 Paths, but he can be sure that the ancestor of the ninja world must have been eyeing him. Sage of 6 Paths recreates the ninja world, and I don't know if he can go back to his little dark room again. If he doesn't go, then what he will do next is completely beyond the trajectory of the original book and cannot be calculated. Thinking of this, Lynn felt a bit of a headache, with such a powerful boss staring at him at all times. Otsutsugi. He was really worried that Sage of 6 Paths would suddenly jump to him, surprise him in front of him. It can be said that the threat of Sage of 6 Paths alone is enough to give Lynn a headache. And the key point is that Lynn has a lot of things to pay for this time. Not to mention the enormous pressure that he faced during the battle against the Great Toad Sage, and he could die at any time, nor the large amount of energy consumed, just the use of the temporary puppet material for the last time. Opportunity, that is a huge loss. In contrast to his efforts, his gains were not so great because the most stable income point, Great Toad Sage's corpse, he didn't get it due to running away. I hope this thing can be exchanged for good things. Otherwise I will lose a lot of money this time. So at this time, Lynn also looked at the only thing that might surprise him in this action. That is, the Talisman of Immortals snatched from the Great Toad Sage. To put it more bluntly, if this thing is a waste, then Lynn's action this time is really a loss. Tantong, scan this thing. So at this time, Lynn also glanced at the Radiant Fairy Talisman not far away from him. Advertisement open black lens bracket scanning. Open black lens bracket. Congratulations to host, you have obtained the SSS plus level puppet material, Immortal Talisman. F*K. But now, Lynn feels that he has no loss at all. For Lynn, the allure of an SSSS level puppet can be imagined. The puppet material can be split into the puppet material, Crystal of the Power of Cause and Effect, and the special item Immortal's Body Inheritance Life Source. Thank you for reading this story at fictionzone.net. Your support enables us to keep the site running. After hearing such a prompt from the system, Lynn was naturally stunned. Open black lens bracket. Do you want to split immediately? Close black lens bracket. To be honest, he didn't even think about it at first, and planned to use this Immortal Talisman directly as an auxiliary material to extract puppets. After all, if he used SSS plus grade puppet material to extract, there was a high probability that he would get an SSS grade puppet. And just for this scan alone, Lynn couldn't help but groan on the spot. Inheritance of the immortal body? Because the so-called Crystal of the Power of Cause and Effect is not bad, Lynn has never heard of it and won't feel too moved. But the point is, SSS plus class stuff, it's definitely worth it to give him the last chance to use the UF Harbach. Originally, he was really worried if it wasn't a rare thing to scan the 393 hook, then he would really lose a lot of money. When it comes to this, Lynn is naturally interested. SSS plus level, but now, this hint has undoubtedly disrupted his plan directly. This was the first time he saw this level of puppet material. But immediately after, the system's prompt made Lynn stunned again. Chapter 158. Power, Imagination Realization. 2/4, please subscribe. You must know that the original purpose of Lynn's trip to Mount Myoboku was to find out about the body of immortals. However, as the situation took a turn for the worse, Lynn originally thought that this original purpose was probably in vain. But he didn't expect that this time. He actually obtained relevant information in this way. Immortal Body Inheritance Life Source. This thing must be related to the immortal body he is looking for just by looking at the name. So Lynn was also entangled in an instant. The choice before him now is simple. First, by directly extracting the Talisman of the Immortal, there is a high probability of directly obtaining a SSS level puppet, and the strength at hand will increase steadily. Second, splitting the Talisman of the Immortal, so that he can take a big step forward on the road to completing the special achievement, the Eye of the Supreme, that he is extremely coveted. As for this choice, Lynn also thought about it. Traditional. Split up the Immortal Talisman for me. After thinking for a long time, Lynn finally came to his own decision. Although SSS plus level puppet materials are precious, they cannot extract Hook X level puppets. Compared with the special achievement that might touch the X level puppet, it was naturally a little less meaningful. And although the mutation of Sage of Six Paths made him urgently need to strengthen his strength, it is still not Lynn's style to give up a special achievement for this purpose. Then, open black lens bracket host chooses to split the charm of the immortal. Congrats to host, you have obtained the SSS level special material, Crystal of the Power of Karma. Congratulations to host, get the SSS level special item, Immortal Body Inheritance Life Source. 1 SSS plus split out of SSS level. Lynn was a little surprised after seeing the result. The grade after this split has to be said to be much higher than he expected. Then he turned his attention to the two things that were split and cut. Open black lens bracket Crystal of the Power of Cause and Effect close black lens bracket, SSS level special material. Advertisement, special crystals produced naturally in the world. After injecting natural energy, it has the effect of reversing cause and effect and predicting fate. This item is a special material and can be extracted specially. Naturally produces reversal of cause and effect and predicts fate. This thing is the source of the predictive power of the Great Toad Sage. After seeing the introduction, Lynn also instantly understood. The prediction ability of the Great Toad Sage is still afraid of him when he thinks about it, and now it seems that the reason why the bug ability exists should be related to this thing. It seems that, within Mount Myoboku, it is very likely that this special crystallization and the huge amount of natural energy it contains will make it immortal. 93. And the Great Toad Sage is the master of the power in this crystal, and the method of extracting the Sage Jutsu Chara with natural energy, and then making the fairy talisman? While muttering in his heart, Lynn did not ignore the last sentence of the introduction of this special material. Traditional, what does special extraction mean? Special extraction is a unique extraction method for special materials. Special materials cannot be used to directly extract puppets, but can only be used to extract special props, skills. The extracted special props and skills can be directly used on the puppet to strengthen the puppet. And such a thing. After hearing this, Lynn understood that it was no wonder that the system was so generous, and directly gave him 2 SSS level things, which turned out to be the case. Although it is nominally SSS level material, since the power of cause and effect cannot be used to directly assist in extracting puppets, but can only be used to extract puppet skills, the meaning of it is naturally a lot worse. After all, directly extracting a puppet is equivalent to giving a SSS level powerhouse to Lynn for free. But if you just extract an SSS level item or skill, then its meaning is obviously much worse. Shentong, let's start special extraction. But even if he knew this, Lynn didn't have any hesitation. Everything was on his face, why could he not smoke? The host uses the SSS level special material, Causal Power Crystal, for special extraction. 500 points have been consumed and are being drawn. After the extraction is complete, congratulations to the host for obtaining the SSS level puppet skill, Power Fantasy Realization. And as the words of the traditional system quickly sounded, Lynn's mind appeared about the introduction of the skill he had drawn. Advertisement, Power and Fantasy Materialization. SSS level skill, Model Moon Series, Puppet Skills. Open black lens bracket affect the world with your own will, let the world change with your own fantasy. Available for puppets. Unlimited, it's actually this ability. Reinforcing, Power and Fantasy Realization, to myself. Not out of disappointment, but out of shock. For example, as long as the caster is willing, the air in his mind is an invisible blade, the space may be a discontinuous fault, the water may be burning, and the flame may be cold. Without thinking about it, Lynn directly chose the last chance to use his Eternal Enhancement voucher. He is somewhat familiar with the world of Xingyue, and he has seen a lot of related dramas in the past. In this world, it means that it cannot affect the enemies of the extra level, X level. But obviously, he has better options. Shentong, I want to use the Eternal Enhancement coupon. At the same time as seeing the skill introduction, Linbin was also stunned. The representative of this skill is the Princess, White Princess, Elkwhite Brunsted, the true ancestor of the Moon World, and she can even create a huge city out of thin air if she liberates the restrictions. Of course, the limitation of this skill also exists, that is, it cannot affect the independent individual who is detached from nature. If this skill is explained in a more straightforward way, it would be, whatever you want. Thank you for reading this story at fictionzone.net. Your support enables us to keep the site running. Whether it's creating mountains, creating seas, or creating cities, it's a breeze, no doubt super bug skills. But even so, the potential of this skill and the intensity of development are almost shocking. As long as the mind recites, no matter how incredible the phenomenon is, even things that violate the laws of causality and natural laws can be accomplished. Lynn has no doubt that no matter which puppet this ability is placed on, it can create a SSS level puppet out of thin air. It is precisely because he understands that he continues to know how buggy this skill is. Chapter 159 Restrictions on the Realization of Fantasy, 3/4. Please subscribe. The more the strength at hand increases, the more Yi Lin pays attention to protecting himself. Especially this time, after the battle with the Great Toad Sage, he paid more attention to the issue of self-protection. This time, the primal puppet can just use the ability to keep him next to him, but what if he later hooks a stronger enemy or more difficult ability? Yi Lin won't bet everything on luck. Puppets are very important to him, but his own strength is the real foundation. So without hesitation, he directly used this last Eternal Enhancement voucher. Host uses Eternal Enhancement coupon to strengthen himself. Eternal Reinforcement coupon remaining times, 0. Open black lens bracket. Congratulations to host, the strengthening is successful. And with the hints of the traditional, Yi Lin felt that his thinking and five senses seemed to have a new understanding of the surrounding at this moment. The flow of the surrounding air seems to be like a paintbrush that outlines the world at this time, and Yi Lin even feels that the whole world seems to be connected with his thinking at this time. The whole world is like a pure white scroll. Yi Lin even instinctively felt that as long as he wanted, he could paint on this scroll 393 as he wanted. He gently stretched out his right hand and waved lightly around him. So the next moment, a huge layer of ice appeared in the air, and the surrounding temperature also began to drop in an instant. And Yi Lin waved his hand again, and the ice layer turned into a scorching fire, which burned everything around him. As Yi Lin's hands continued to dance, the raging fire sometimes turned into a flying dragon, sometimes a lion, and sometimes a puppy. As long as Yi Lin's heart moved, everything would happen naturally. Is this the embodiment of fantasy? For this brand new and powerful ability, Yi Lin has already felt its almost indistinguishable characteristics despite only a rough attempt. Advertisement. Immediately after that, he began to try a larger scale, realization of fantasy. Buzz. As his hands were raised high, he saw that the sky above Jingling Court was covered with dark clouds in an instant. And above the clouds, a majestic tower slowly appeared in the sky. It is difficult to describe this shocking scene in words. The giant tower seems to be formed by the clouds below itself, and countless cloud blocks form the tower body like bricks, and the dark electric snakes form a very shocking picture. But at this time, Yi Lin's brows were slightly frowned. Afterwards, he stopped the ability to materialize fantasy. Energy consumption, so exaggerated. He Yingmei whispered to himself, but he also discovered the problem of energy consumption. Of course, in fact, since he got the 10 tails, the energy problem that has been plaguing him has been solved. At least he used SSS level puppets, and even maintained Tensagen's Chara mode for a long time, which was not much compared to 10 tails Chara volume. This is like his total energy is 10W, and then maintaining Tensagen Chara mode needs to consume 100 energy points per minute, which is not considered consumption at all. But this time, he felt the problem of energy consumption again after a long absence. The energy consumption speed of maintaining the imaginary state is almost 10 times that of Tensagen's Chara mode. And then, Yi Lin tried to create different things one after another, such as a hill, a river, or a building. After constant attempts, he gradually understood the characteristics of the ability to materialize utopia. For example, if he just wants to create a mountain or a river, it is very easy with his AGCG energy intensity. But if he wants to add some feature to the mountains or rivers that should exist in the world, then the consumption of energy will increase dramatically. For example, Yi Lin tried to change the water flowing in the river into the flowing fire, or set the position of a high mountain in the air. Although he can still create abnormal things like rhyme, it needs to consume a lot of money, energy of. For another example, if Yi Lin also wanted to use the inevitable hit attack like the Great Toad Sage in battle, he could do something similar. Advertisement. But if Yi Lin wants to use the attack of no matter where he touches, he will kill with one hit. Then this attack will hardly increase the effect of inevitably hit. Otherwise the energy that needs to be consumed will even be enough to drain the 10 tails. However, Yi Lin accepted the limitations of this ability quite calmly. As Yi Lin's attention shifted to this prop, he also felt that something suddenly appeared in his mind. SSS level special props, of course. There's no interest in Sage Jutsu Chakra Yellen. He's been around for so long, and he's never been to ninjutsu or anything like that. Thank you for reading this story at fictionzone.net. Your support enables us to keep the site running. After all, the effect of this ability is really a bit buggy. If there are no such little restrictions, it can't be classified as SSSS, but it should be X. And that's not the case. It's the knowledge about Sage mode that he asked for the Great Toad Sage before. What really interested him was the knowledge about absorbing the energy of the surrounding nature to strengthen his body. And after trying out the effects of the new ability, Yi Lin also temporarily put this ability aside. When he looked back, he had to study the various details of this ability. It includes how to absorb natural energy to strengthen one's own body, and also includes how to extract Sage Jutsu Chakra with natural energy. So Yi Lin's mind soon had a rough summary. Open black lens bracket immortal body inheritance life source close black lens bracket. This thing, it looks like my other puppets can also be used, right? Belonging to the inheritance of the immortals of Mount Myoboku, which can absorb the natural energy in the surrounding environment and enter Sage mode. The body of the immortal is numerous minus 1/3. As for now, the first thing he needs to pay attention to is another key item he has obtained. The more detached from reality, the greater the power, and the greater the consumption of energy? Because if his idea is not wrong, Chapter 160 The Otsutsuki Father and Son Who Met the Ancestors, 4 quarters, please subscribe. Konaha Lynn's reaction was already experienced after so many props, so he quickly understood the true meaning of this special prop. Because if you just look at the effect of this item itself, in fact, it is completely unworthy of the SSS level evaluation. It just strengthens the body and adds Sage mode, and maybe even the SS level may not even be considered. But the key is that this time this prop is not a simple puppet material, but an inherited knowledge. In other words, this prop can not only act on one puppet, but all of Yi Lin's puppets. In this way, this prop will undoubtedly be of great significance. The effect of Sage mode to strengthen the body functions, according to the original work, even for the SS level cooperation with Hashirama, there is a huge benefit, and even Sage of 6 Paths has obviously strengthened with the help of Sage Jutsu. Balance. Conservatively estimate, after the S level puppet enters the Sage mode, strengthening the physique can at least make him reach S+. After the SS level is strengthened, it can also be improved by a small level. After careful consideration, Yi Lin naturally understood the importance of this item. Every puppet can be improved, and even if he continued to calculate, his giant army and ghost clan might also be able to use it. If you use these things, the benefits will be really big. SS's level, it seems that it is completely reasonable. With such thoughts in his heart, Yi Lin immediately began to study more about the knowledge of Sage mode. And it was when Yi Lin devoted himself to sorting out the harvest of this operation. Somewhere in the ninja world, the bright moon hung high in the sky. The thin moonlight sprinkled from the sky and shone on the 3 people below. The 2 persons with abnormally pale faces were all dressed in white robes, one younger and the other older, but also the father and son of the last descendant of Otsutsuki on the moon, Otsutsuki Sharon, and Otsutsuki Naruto. At this time, they looked at the person in front of them with a little bit of surprise on their faces. Before, they experienced the drastic changes on the moon, and watched the giant Tensigen being taken away. However, at that time, they had doubts in their hearts. That was who was on the moon, and who was the clan who fought against the enemy who robbed the giant Tensigen. So after the incident, they did not rush to the ninja world immediately, but it was a search on the moon for a while, trying to find the clan. But apparently, they couldn't find the remnant of Otsutsuki Hamura that had disappeared. So after searching for a while, they were there not long ago, they chose to come to the ninja world through the passage between the moon and the earth. But they did not expect that the first time they came to the ninja world, they actually encountered this legendary existence in front of them. This bloodline. You are the descendants of Hamura? Sage of 6 Paths stood in midair holding the truth-seeking ball tin cane, and seemed to see the bloodline and identity of Naruto Otsutsuki and Shuren Otsutsuki at a glance. In fact, it was also because he felt the familiar atmosphere of the Otsutsuki clan, he was able to intercept the father and son at the first time. You are. At this time, even the always proud Naruto Otsutsuki was frightened. A little trembling. As a lunar race that has inherited the history of the Otsutsuki clan, of course he has seen the portrait of the person in front of him. But seeing the person before him does not mean that he can accept the person in front of him who has already died. The Sage of 6 Paths of 2009 reappeared in front of him. As you can see, a very dangerous guy has reappeared in the ninja world, and this old guy has to stand up again from death. And Sage of 6 Paths obviously understands the horror of Naruto Otsutsuki and his son, and at this time, he just said it flatly. Dangerous. There are still guys in the ninja world who can also be called dangerous? For Sage of 6 Paths? Naruto Otsutsuki just thinks he is dreaming. I remember that Hamura should let you guys watch Ghetto Statue on the moon. Yes, you are. But Sage of 6 Paths obviously did not intend to explain much to Naruto Otsutsuki, and looked at the 2 directly at this time, apparently suspecting that they would betray Chen Yukin's promise and perseverance. Therefore, at this time, the round looking back at the enormous power and coercion, Naruto and his son were directly pressed to the ground almost in an instant. 6. Ancestor of 6 Paths, you don't know something, and felt the reincarnation eye. As if the terrifying pressure came from the depths of his blood, Naruto Otsutsuki naturally no longer had any doubts about the identity of Sage of 6 Paths. He immediately informed Sage of the mutation that occurred on the moon at a very fast speed. Of 6 Paths. Of course, during this process, he naturally concealed the Otsutsuki clan on the moon and the battle between them, and only said that the giant Tensisen was a treasure made by their clan together with the power of the whole clan. Was even the moon attacked? Asking for flowers? After hearing Naruto's explanation, Sage of 6 Paths naturally did not delve into the things hidden in his words. For Sage of 6 Paths, he had seen enough of the battles of future generations, and he did not go to persuade or punish. On the contrary, he was concerned with what might be symbolized behind the event. Intentions, is that guy again? So at this time, he also said directly to the straight person. Gather information on the ninja world once in a few decades? After finishing all the news, Sage of 6 Paths also directly stated his request. I don't even know the current situation in the ninja world, so I need your help. Thank you for reading this story at fictionzone.net. Your support enables us to keep the site running. And Naruto naturally has no arrogance in front of Sage of 6 Paths, even if he hastily nodded to explain. But unfortunately, in the face of the unprecedented situation in the ninja world, Sage of 6 Paths has no time to wait for Shuren to grow up. Especially in Otsutsuki Shuren, Sage of 6 Paths cast a little more attention, Shiran's talent is really good even in his opinion. If your humor came from ancient times, if you cultivate it yourself, at least it is not inferior to Ashura and Indra. Advertisement. You guys probably don't know anything about what's going on in the ninja world right now. Those forces that don't know where they came from in countless powerhouses, even Sage of Six Paths sometimes feel confused. Without any concealment, he directly told Naruto Otsutsuki all the information he had recently collected, such as Jingling, world government, ghost clan, and so on. Listen, in the ninja world right now, that's ignorance. So he is also looking at Naruto Otsutsuki at this time. Well, it doesn't count as ignorance. We have clansmen every few decades to collect intelligence on the ninja world. 99. Thinking of the name Otsutsuki Knight, Sage of Six Paths' expression suddenly became complicated again. However, as soon as the signing was signed, he also took the complexities in his heart into his heart, and turned to look at Naruto Otsutsuki and the father and son in front of him. And Sage of Six Paths directly interrupted Naruto's words. Just kidding. According to the information he has collected in the past few days, he already knows that the changes that have taken place in the entire ninja world in this year are probably more exaggerated than in the past, rough years. Chapter 161 Otsutsuki Mew Now Renren's Tensigen, 14, please subscribe. In fact, with the power of Sage of Six Paths himself, he rarely said words like, need help, to people. After all, apart from his mother Otsutsuki Kagaya in the past, there is no one he can't beat in the entire history of the ninja world, and naturally he does not need help. But now, he really said this sentence. Because of the information he had collected during this time, even he felt extremely shocked in his heart. The power contained in the forces he had never heard of before exceeded his expectations, and the behavior of the other party made Sage of Six Paths smell a sense of crisis. Because he has been monitoring the power of the ninja world Six Paths level and above during the long years of Azara monitoring the ninja world. And according to the information he has collected, whether it is Jingling, the world government, the ghost clan or the ghost killing team, it seems that there are Six Paths level powerhouses. But for so long, his 3 nines has not been able to monitor the power fluctuations of these Six Paths level powerhouses. In particular, the news he got from Naruto Otsutsuki made his heart tremble even more, because he also had a little sense of the battle that took place on the moon before. It's just that the Sage of Six Paths, which was still sealing his chara at that time, felt the SS level power fluctuations when he sensed it, so he didn't do it directly, but woke up his younger brother's remnant soul to fight. As for the outcome of the battle, he didn't think much about it. In his opinion, his younger brother's remnant soul should be invincible in the SS rank. But now it seems that the result is clearly that Hamura was defeated, and the giant Tensison was snatched away. In addition, he had done it once before, that is, he took Chara of Three Tails away from the Hueco Mundo, with the help of his close connection with the tailed beast. In that battle, he only felt the SS level. The power fluctuates, and I have never felt the existence of Six Paths level powerhouses. What this shows, Sage of Six Paths is also very clear. It clearly shows that the Six Paths level powerhouses among the mysterious forces have the ability to hide his perception, and they also have intentions when they are field workers. The controlling power keeps him from discovering. In other words, his existence has long been known to the other party, but he himself knew nothing of the other party's existence before. Even if it wasn't for the death of the Great Toad Sage, if he didn't unblock his chara, maybe he didn't know the great changes that had taken place in the ninja world until now. This apparently, great conspiracy situation also made Sage of Six Paths, who has always been reckless, have a very heavy thought in their hearts. And more importantly, he is just a condensate of chara left over from the past. In other words, his total chara is limited, and he can't really use power unscrupulously, but to ensure that good steel is used on the blade. Under such circumstances, he resolutely chose Naruto Otsutsuki and his son for help. These two were the descendants of Otsutsuki left by his younger brother Hamura, and Sage of Six Paths could still be trusted. But on the other hand, after hearing the words of Sage of Six Paths, Naruto Otsutsuki was almost dumbfounded on the spot. Advertisement because unlike Sage of Six Paths, he only came to the ninja world for such a short time, and of course he didn't have the opportunity to collect information about the ninja world. So at this time, the words of Sage of Six Paths are undoubtedly the same as a book from heaven to him. Especially in the mouth of Sage of Six Paths, there are major forces that are not inferior to immortal level powerhouses, which makes Naruto Otsutsuki doubt whether he has gone to the wrong planet from the moon. Otherwise, how could there not even be the slightest bit of content about these forces in the intelligence that their clan has collected over the years? Compared to Naruto Otsutsuki, his son Shiran's reaction at this time was even slightly faster than his father's. Six Paths ancestors, we are willing to help you maintain the peace of the ninja world. Xiao Sharon looked at Sage of Six Paths with a sincere expression. Although he was still young and had no eyes, he was extremely sincere and serious at this time. Yes, the Six Paths ancestors' entrustment, we must complete it. At this time, Naruto also reacted, so he also nodded. Although they were muttering about destroying and purifying the ninja world when they were on the moon not long ago, they obviously didn't show any similar thoughts in front of Sage of Six Paths. Okay. Sage of Six Paths nodded, and then looked straight into the eyes again. Your eyes. It's a white eye. The younger generation is stupid and did not succeed in activating the Tensison of the ancestors of Hamura. Naruto also obviously knew the meaning of Sage of Six Paths, and his expression was extremely embarrassed at this time. Well, you guys have really encountered such a thing. And Sage of Six Paths also nodded one by one after the letter was printed with his mother Kagaya. He and his younger brother Hamura stayed on the earth to establish a ninja world, and the other was stationed on the moon and never met. However, his own sons Ashura and Indra also did not inherit his reincarnation eye, so Sage of Six Paths has this sigh. Just looking at the eyes and your current strength is not enough to help me fight those guys. So after pondering for a moment, Sage of Six Paths clapped its hands lightly. There will be some pain, bear with it. Buzz, advertisement. At this moment, the huge power of all things suddenly surged with his recovery, and then directly poured into Naruto Otsutsuki's eyes. As a result, Naruto Otsutsuki immediately let out a scream, and at the same time his eyes began to change rapidly. The white eyes that were originally pure white began to turn towards the Tenseigan almost in an instant. But after a while, it has the general appearance of Tenseigan. The only district policeman is that although there are stardust flowing in his eyes like Lynn's Tenseigan, the lines inside are not so clear. After seeing this scene, Sage of Six Paths also shook his head slightly. Naruto Otsutsuki's talent is still slightly inferior, even if he gave him a part of chakra, his awakened Tenseigan still remained. Not as good as Himura's natural Tenseigan. Thank you Six Paths ancestors. At this time, Naruto, who had recovered from the pain, felt the terrifying change in pupil power in his eyes, and naturally knew what happened. So at this time, he also bowed down to Sage of Six Paths with a face full of ecstasy. Tenseigan, the I-2.6 that their lunar Otsutsuki clan had been chasing for countless years, was actually obtained by him so easily. Yep 99 Sage of Six Paths nodded lightly. My chara can be consumed at will, it will be attached to Shirin's body in the future, and when I need to take action, I will naturally hook it up. 99. At the same time as the words fell, he lightly turned into a faint chara and merged into the center of Otsutsuki's eyebrows, forming a dark red hooked jade mark on the center of his eyebrows. But ancestors, where should we go now? Seeing that Sage of Six Paths actually chose to temporarily stay on Otsutsuki's body, Otsutsuki felt strange in his heart, but he did not forget to ask. Go to Konaha. There seemed to be a tinge of solemnity and seriousness in Sage of Six Paths' bland reply. If I'm not wrong, they're here. Where they should be now. Chapter 1662 Kushina is going to give birth. Konaha's request for help, 2 quarters, please subscribe. Just when Naruto Otsutsuki, father and son, and Sage of Six Paths decided to act together, the ninja world was in the midst of the chaos that followed the Mount Myoboku incident. Due to the existence of the Ninja World Association, the entire ninja world has started a process of integration in a sense, and the exchange of information between them is extremely frequent. Especially this time, the information involved is related to the entire ninja world, so Konaha will naturally not intentionally conceal the information. Therefore, at this time, almost without exception, the remaining 4 ninja villages already knew the news that Konaha was attacked again, and even knew that Mount Myoboku, one of the 3 immortal lands, had suffered heavy losses. Of course, the other 4 ninja villages are not familiar with Mount Myoboku, so they don't care that much about what happened to Mount Myoboku. The biggest issue they were concerned about was the identity of the second 5 elders who were hooked up in this incident. There is no doubt that the existence of this new 506 veteran is extremely shocking. The same Six Paths level powerhouse, but also a woman with reincarnation eyes. At the same time it seems to be a brother and sister relationship with Otsutsugi Yi, named Otsutsuki Moon. This news undoubtedly shocked all the seniors of the ninja world, because if it was only Otsutsuki Yoruichi, it would be okay to say, but now that his sister is also showing the strength of the Six Paths level lying down, it is enough to make people doubt their entire ethnic group, situation. After all, in the ninja world, there is such a thing as the limit of blood. What's even more unbelievable for everyone in the ninja world is that they have found some shocking historical content about the 3 words, Otsutsuki, after constantly consulting ancient books during this period of time. That is, it is said that in ancient times, the name of Sage of Six Paths was also related to these 3 words. It was called Otsutsuki Hagoromo. And this discovery, coupled with the reincarnation eye possessed by the newly appeared 5 elders, Otsutsuki Moon, also made many strong men in the ninja world think about it. To put it bluntly, just from such a discovery, they can make up dozens of different conspiracy theories. However, in the process of brainstorming among many high-level ninjas, time also passed quickly for a month. And it was just a month later that many shinobi villages, who were already on the verge of a tight string, also received a message from Konaha. Land of Earth, Rock Shinobi Village, advertisement. What? Hope we can go to Konaha. Inomu listened to the report of the Lois in front of him, and his expression also seemed a little strange. Yes. 99. The reason? It was said to be because 4th Hokage's wife was about to give birth. When the words of the Lois came to this point, Oyumu's expression suddenly became serious. 4th Hokage's wife. At the same time, the land of Wind's Sand Shinobi Village. Uzumaki Kushina, 9 Tails Jinchuriki? Obviously, 4th Kazekage Luo Sha also received almost the same news from Rock Shinobi Village at this time. No need to say more, all the shadows can understand the meaning of Konaha. They had already received news from the commander-in-chief of Jingling, that was the purpose of the mysterious Akatsuki organization, which seemed to be for the tailed beasts of several large ninja villages. Therefore, although the members of Xiao's organization have never appeared in the ninja world since the Battle of Jingling, the major ninja villages are still full of caution and fear. And this time Konaha's request for help is obviously for this reason. After all, Konaha was attacked by 2 5 elders more than a month ago. Not to mention heavy losses, but it must have not recovered. And when Jinchuriki gives birth, it must be the time when the seal between Jinchuriki and the beast is the weakest. At this time, the Akatsuki organization is likely to take the opportunity to snatch Jinchuriki. Of course, there are obvious hidden reasons behind Konaha's large-scale request for help, and Luo Sha's intelligence can be easily seen at a glance. Konaha is because of this incident. It's going to get darker. 99. Advertisement. Luo Sha knows that Konaha's almost open and honest behavior this time undoubtedly means that they are going to read more deeply on the basis of the original question of the Ninja Association. For this reason, they even put the matter of the tail beast due concealment. Among them, it is unknown how much influence the Mount Myoboku incident has this time. Times have really changed. Luo Sha shook her head slightly and sighed, feeling as if she had passed away for a while. You must know that just over a year ago, the ninja world was still in the midst of war, and each of the 5 major ninja villages regarded each other as extremely threatening enemies. As for the tailed beast, it is the most valued private property of the major ninja villages, and it is absolutely confidential to other ninja villages. But it was just over a year later that Konaha's Jinchuriki was about to give birth, so he could directly call other shinobi villages to support him. This huge change naturally made Luo San shinobi sigh. Lord Fengying, do we have to respond? After hearing his words, the San shinobi village ninja in front of Luo Sha also said the same. Of course. Luo Sha did not hesitate. In the current situation of the ninja world, we San shinobi cannot leave the ninja lead. 2 days later, I will personally lead the team to Konaha. 33. Naturally, needless to say, the 5 major ninja villages and the small ninja village, which is somewhat powerful in the Ninja World Association, also received news from Konaha at this time. And they all know that Konaha's request for help this time is not only a sign of fear of the existence of Akatsuki's organization, but also a signal to seek further questions. So without exception, almost all the shinobi villages who received the news chose to respond to Konaha's request for help. In particular, the remaining 4 major ninja villages, without exception, were led by their respective shadows to lead the elite ninjas to Konaha. Even Terumi Mei, who had just succeeded Mizukage, was the same. And under such circumstances, Konaha, who was attacked not long ago, also started to become lively. Chapter 163. The Mysterious Man in the Ramen Shop. The mountains and the rain are coming. 3/4. Please subscribe. Konaha. Fortunately, the attack more than a month ago turned out to be much better than the last attack. Except for the Uchiha clan's resident once again, the main body of Konaha village was almost not too affected. It is precisely because of this that the residents of Konaha are now welcoming this rare situation quite leisurely. In the 100 years since the establishment of the ninja village, the wars in the ninja world have been constant, so the residents of Konaha naturally have a rare chance to see ninjas from other countries. Therefore, at this time, they were also seeing the other ninjas with extremely curious eyes, and were welcomed into the village by the ninjas who were in charge of welcoming them. Are those ninjas from the land of thunder? Mom, their skin is so dark. Are those San shinobi from the land of winds? Wow, is that Mizukage-sama? So pretty. 4th generation has a wide range of friends, and all 4 actors are here. Of course, the commoners do not know the secret information between the Akatsuki organization and the tailed beast, so they only think that the 4 shadows and many ninjas from the ninja village are here to celebrate the birth of the child for the 4th generation. But relatively speaking, the 4 coming shadows met Nara Shikahisa right away. The 4 shadow masters, 4th generation and 3rd generation are all waiting for you in the conference room on the 4th floor. Nara Shikahisa didn't say much, but the 4 shadows also understood the meaning. They came here to prevent the possible attack of Akatsuki's organization in order to capture the tailed beast, so they naturally had to discuss plans. Naturally, the discussion of this kind of plan cannot be made under the guise of others, and the 4 of them have to discuss it individually. Well, then here. Onogi nodded, but at the same time, he swept the crowd that gathered around him, and his expression was also a little scrutiny. The situation here is full of people, and he is naturally a little worried that if something happens here after the 4 shadows leave, it is very likely that no one will be able to control the situation. 4 shadows, please rest assured, we have set up a special place to live in your ninja village and other ninja villages, and someone will take them there in a while. As for the situation here, Jiraiya-sama, Tsunade-sama and Orochimaru-sama are spying. He said in a low voice, and the meaning of the words was very clear. Sanin of Konaha was hiding in the village to monitor the situation, and he couldn't make trouble. Well, let's lead the way. And Seeing nodded slightly after hearing his words. They naturally recognized Konaha Sanin's strength. So soon, the 4 shadows went to the conference room together with Nara Shikaku. Advertisement in the conference room. Namikaze Minato and Sarutobi Hiizaki, the former Konaha and the current Hokage, are waiting for the arrival of 4 shadows. It's just worth mentioning that at this time, Namikaze Minato was very tired and anxious. And this exhaustion and anxiety is inevitable during this time. After all, after what happened to Mount Myoboku not long ago, the follow-up aftermath and the handling of questions about the remaining Toad Sage of Mount Myoboku have already brought Namikaze Minato to the forehead lawsuit. The subsequent repair of the village, the appeasement of the Uchiha family and the commoners has just been negotiated, and his wife Uzumaki Kushina is about to give birth. And knowing in advance that the organization is likely to have some kind of purpose for the tailed beast, this incident naturally left a deep worry in Namikaze Minato's heart. Coupled with the request for the support of the 4 great ninja villages and the subsequent preparations for the plan, Namikaze Minato, who has always been optimistic and sunny, could not help but be stained with signs of fatigue and exhaustion. The 4 are here. At this time, seeing the arrival of the 4 shadows, the 2 also stood up and greeted them softly. So without further ado, let's get started. Soon, a discussion meeting on how the 5 ninja villages work together when Uzumaki Kushina was produced began. When the 5 shadows began to discuss the matter of this question, it was in the shadow of a street in Konaha. Jiraiya's tall body was leaning against the shadow of the corner, and her eyes were looking at the crowd gathered in the distance like electricity. Just as Nara Shikahisa said, Konaha Sanin was walking around Konaha at this time to monitor the unprecedented chaotic crowd in case of any accident. At this time, Jiraiya's expression was obviously more serious and determined than before. I have to say that the previous incident at Mount Myoboku had a huge impact on him. Because although he had no other way, the enemy did open the inverse summoning space channel through his summoning technique and went to Mount Myoboku, which directly led to the death of the great Toad Sage and the destruction of Mount Myoboku. For Jiraiya, who values love and righteousness at the same time and regards Mount Myoboku as his second hometown, this is undoubtedly an unacceptable result for him. Especially the feeling of powerlessness when facing the Otsutsuki brothers and sisters, as well as the terrifying battle he saw in the first battle of Jingling, all stimulated his heart. The kind of reckless attitude. As for his anxious and serious situation, besides Namikaze Minato, who is also too busy to sleep recently, Tsunade and even Orochimaru have reminded Jiraiya that he hopes he can relax a bit. As soon as she thought of this, Jiraiya also put aside those heavy thoughts in her heart and walked out of the corner of the street. When passing by, he happened to pass by a ramen shop. I have to say that the ramen shop called Ichiraku Ramen itself is quite famous among Konoha ninjas. Jiraiya, Namikaze Minato and Kakashi, their master, apprentice and grandson, like to come here very much. Relax. Advertisement. Looking at this familiar ramen shop, Jiraiya was also moved, and then decided to eat a bowl of noodles to relax. Oh, is it Jiraiya-sama? Is it still the same? As soon as he entered the ramen shop, the owner shouted at Jiraiya quite familiarly. Jiraiya smiled and nodded and sat down. Okay, soon, the hot ramen was brought to him. Suck, suck, suck. While sucking the ramen noodles, the gloomy mood in Jiraiya's heart seemed to relax a lot. But at this time, my guest, thank you for your patronage. The warm words of the hand hit Jiraiya's ears. You're welcome, boss, the famous Ichiraku ramen really tastes good. It's a pity that my friend hasn't come to Konoha yet, otherwise I'll definitely bring him to try it out. Immediately after that, such a voice came from Jiraiya's ears, along with the sound of the seat moving due to someone getting up. But at the same time as this voice sounded, Jiraiya's whole body froze immediately. Good promise. Is there anyone by my side? Because he hadn't found out before that there were other guests on the seat beside him? And this is almost impossible for Jiraiya. With his strength, Chara's perception of the surrounding has long been an instinct. The slightest sound of the grass and trees around him can't escape his perception, let alone a person. Wrong. So Jiraiya also immediately got up and turned her head, but she happened to see the figure of the guest who opened the curtain and left. With a startling glance, Jiraiya could only roughly see the exquisite robe, black hair and ears of the other party, slim-rimmed glasses. But when Jiraiya instinctively chased the rhyme, he found that the man had disappeared from his sight in just such a moment. So the short-lived ease in Jiraiya's heart suddenly disappeared, and it was replaced by a very deep solemnity. He had an instinctive premonition that this time Konoha might change again. Chapter 164 Nami and Tang. The Attack of Shao Organization. 4 quarters, please subscribe. As the 4 shadows came to Konoha, time passed by in a flash. As Uzumaki Kushina's due date approached, the atmosphere within Konoha became obviously chilling. No matter what country a businessman or traveler is from, they need to be questioned and investigated after entering Konoha. And the elite ninjas brought by several big ninja villages have already set up various outposts around Konoha. That is, under this tense atmosphere, the time soon came to the scheduled time. Outside Konoha village, outside a very secret facility area, Namikaze Minato's face paled slightly due to nervousness. Minato, don't worry too much. At this time, Sarutobi Hiizaki was beside him so comforting. And besides Sarutobi Hiizaki, Orochimaru Tsunade and Jiraiya, as well as a large number of Konoha Anbu elites are standing here. We are fully prepared this time, and we won't be bothered by the problem. Sarutobi Hiizaki's consolation was obviously effective for Namikaze Minato. At least he should be able to nod his head calmly on the bright side. But compared to Sarutobi Hiizaki, Jiraiya's attitude at this time was obviously hesitant, and he didn't have time to comfort his disciple. Because he was still thinking about the mysterious black-haired man he met at the Yilei ramen shop before. He instinctively felt that there was something wrong with that person, but at the same time he suspected that it was just because he was anxious at the time and didn't pay attention to each other. And just because of such a small guess, it is naturally not good for him to directly let Konaha hook a large number of ninjas to check, so he can only secretly doubt in his heart. As for Orochimaru and Tsunade, I didn't say much at this time. Tsunade is because he is a medical ninja. At this time, what should be considered more than the crisis of the outside world is what should happen if there is a problem with the production of Kushina. Manage. As for Orochimaru, she is simply not interested in comforting people. And if you look closely, you will find that Orochimaru has undergone some strange changes compared to before. Specifically, his skin seemed to become paler, his eyes seemed to have a hint of red, and even the overall temperament changed from the previous yin camp to a slightly evil and fierce feeling. Snapped. However, it was just when everyone was waiting with different thoughts, but in the secret room in the hidden cave not far away, a blazing cherry fireworks appeared impressively. It has started. When everyone saw this, they immediately put their thoughts aside. This time, the production of Kushina is related to the Nine Tails, so naturally they have already prepared the ritual. AGCG, tools to seal the Nine Tails. Such as the annotations with the seal spells hanging outside the secret room. The rope is to seal the Nine Tails for the gap. In order to ensure the safety of the ceremony, even they cannot enter Kushina's production room, but can only wait for the signal outside. This chakra fireworks now is the signal that the ceremony has begun. Advertisement, start. So Sarutobi Hiizaki also raised his hand to pick up the firework tube, and after injecting chara into it, a larger firework was emitted. And it was when I saw the fireworks fly high into the sky and exploded. 93 hum. 22 Since the ceremony venue began to face outwards, 4 consecutive layers of huge barrier also rose up at this time. And if a ninja with eyesight is here at this time, then they will definitely recognize the hook, and these 5 enchantments are all super enchantments above the S level of the ninja world without exception. Earth-style barrier, formation of 8 mountains. Water-style barrier, formation of the 7 seas. Lightning-style barrier, lightning fire ban, magnetic enchantment Shojin bone burial formation. Of course, needless to say, these 4-layered giant formations are also from the remaining 4 shadows and the ninjas of the 4 major ninja villages. Of course, in addition to them, there are other similar grass ninja villages, and the powerhouses of medium-sized ninja villages such as Shinobi Village are also among them to help fishermen. And when they saw the rise of these 4 enchantments, everyone in Konaha looked at each other, and then there was Chi-Chi's same divine beast seal. Fire-style barrier 4 red sun formation. So the next moment, Namikaze Minato, Jiraiya, Tsunade and Orochimaru asked for their strength. According to legend, the 4 red sun arrays that required 4 cage level or above powerhouses, Jingling, also rose from the ground. And seeing this scene, Namikaze Minato was also slightly relieved. So far, the defensive barrier they designed can be considered to be finally complete. These 4 formations are, without exception, formed by cage level powerhouses and many ninjas. After 5 superpositions, according to their calculations, even if a 6 paths level powerhouse can break through the enchantment with absolute power, it will definitely take a long time. And during this time, if the enemy really appears, it will be enough for them to deal with the next step. Not to mention, the location of this hidden facility is actually known only to the 5 Konaha cage level powerhouses, while the other ninja villages who helped are only responsible for their respective areas, and do not know the specific location of the hidden facility. In this way, it can be said that the possibility of someone sneaking in from the outside world is almost eliminated. But it was also at this time, advertisement, Minato-sama. A voice suddenly came from Namikaze Minato's mind. Hey, what's wrong? And Namikaze Minato naturally knows who this is, elite Jonin of the Konaha clan, Yamanaka-hai, of one of the Ino Shika-cho. Mouth in fact, the Grandmaster's mind-turning ninja is one of Konaha's strongest detective ninjas, especially the means by which he can communicate with others through the mind at a distance, and is an extremely powerful means of reconnaissance and intelligence acquisition. So this time, Namikaze Minato also put him in charge of the Konaha Hanjin, and let them guard Kushina here and get information about the village Hanjin. At this time, Yamanaka Kaiichi's sudden message came, which also made Namikaze Minato's heart swell a little. He instinctively felt that something had happened. We've just received the news. The Namentang, which was brought back to the village from the land of Vortex, seems to have been invaded not long ago. Noodle Hall. And after hearing Yamanaka Kaiichi's words, Namikaze Minato was also stunned. He never imagined that Yamanaka Kai would suddenly hook up on this irrelevant matter. Of course, he also knew that it was originally a place like the ancestral hall of the country of Vortex, and it stored many Fungman masks, left by the country of Vortex. However, the country of Vortex was destroyed by war before, and Konaha, who had been friends with the kingdom of Vortex for generations, also naturally inherited some things of the kingdom of Vortex, including Namentang and those masks. But Namikaze Minato couldn't understand why, at such a time, a place like Namito would be invaded. Namentang. At this time, it was Orochimaru who seemed to have thought of something and his face suddenly changed. But he hadn't even had time to speak. 9 tails, were they originally hidden here? 33. Several people in Konaha only heard such a plain and indifferent voice from above their heads. And when they looked up, their expressions changed dramatically. I saw a group of figures standing on the trees not far away. Naturally, there is no need to say more about the identities of these people. Just from the iconic costumes of the black background and red clouds, it is enough to determine their identities. Shao, it's coming. Chapter 165 War. 4. Please subscribe. Everything happened too fast and too abruptly. Namikaze Minato didn't even know what was going on in Namentang, and the members of Akatsuki's organization were already hooked in front of him. Therefore, in his mind, doubts were instantly transferred from Nami and Tang to the front. How did they get into the enchantment? This is the first thing that several Konoha powerhouses present could not understand. Only a few of them and the people who helped Kushina secure the seal inside really knew the location of this hidden facility. But needless to say, those who helped Kushina secure the seal, they were all the confidants among the absolute confidants. Among them, there should be absolutely no traitors. Without knowing the location in advance, the Akatsuki organization should definitely not directly inquire here. And right after that, the second place they were extremely surprised was that Obito Ju and Zhang were missing from the members of the Akatsuki organization in front of them, but they were replaced by more people. Brand new duo. Those two guys are Sasori of San Shinobi Village, 33. The other one, it seems to be the Renan Village, Kakuzu. Neither of them wore masks to hide their identities, so the well-informed Heijan Sarutobi recognized the identities of the two at a glance. But there is no doubt that the identities of these two people are enough to make everyone in Konoha feel a little gloomy. Sasori of Red Sand is of course needless to say. San Shinobi Village is probably the most puppet stylist in history, and his knowledge of puppets is said to have surpassed second Cage Shramana and Puppet Master Menzaemon, stable cage level strong. However, Sasori is still young after all. Although he is a dangerous S-class rebel, it is still understandable. But the other Kakuzu is different. This one has existed since the era of First Hokage, but he is still alive by relying on the secret techniques of Lunin Village, and he has joined the Akatsuki organization. Trouble. Under such circumstances, the many plans originally prepared by Namikaze Minato and others were undoubtedly worthless. The enemy simply ignored the 5 enchantments and went directly into the inside of the facility. Especially looking at Nagato, who was standing behind all Akatsuki members, with a pair of samsara eyes looking down at everyone indifferently, Namikaze Minato immediately made a decision. Boom. Immediately activate the backup plan and call for other teams to come and support. The backup plan he mentioned is actually very simple, that is, after all the previous preparations were ineffective, he directly called the shadows of the other 4 ninja villages to lead the elites to come and fight the opponent head-on. This was really a no-brainer at first, but now it's too much to take care of. And it was at this time. Advertisement, buzz. Just like the previous battle at Jingling, Nagato's samsara eyes radiated purple light. And with the light of samsara eye shining, the eyes of the 4 remaining members of Akatsuki organization, Konan, Yahiko, Sasori, Kakuzu, also flashed the color of samsara eye. It's this trick again. After seeing this scene, the hearts of everyone in Konoha also sank. In the Jingling court, several people who were present at the time had seen with their own eyes the terrifying ability of Nagato to give his own power to others. Although the reincarnation eye he gave is obviously weakened and limited in terms of ability, it is meaningless to a powerful captain like the 13th team of Gote or a 6 paths level powerhouse like the chief captain. But for the ninja world it is undoubtedly quite deterrent to the crowd. You guys get rid of them, I'm going to capture 9 tails. Nagato obviously didn't even have any interest in fighting against the Konoha crowd. Just after saying such a word, he headed towards the hidden cave not far away. Don't think about it, and after seeing this scene, the powerhouses of Konoha are obviously impossible to sit back and watch. The art of summoning. 99 First of all, Konoha Sannin used the summoning technique without exception. However, it is worth mentioning that Tsunade's summoning rhyme is naturally Katsuyu, the clone of Katsuyu. Orochimaru's summoning rhyme is also the giant snake of Ryuji Cave, Myriad Serpent, who signed a contract with him. But only Jiraiya, the summoning rhyme at this time is not his original summoning beast Toad Bunta, but Fukasaku and Shima, 2 high-level leaders of Mount Myoboku. Immortal Shenzo, Immortal Jima, I'm sorry, I have to trouble you this time. At this time, Jiraiya apologized in a low voice. He also knows the current situation of Mount Myoboku, so he naturally feels guilty for fighting the 2 summoning rhymes at this time. Never mind, little Jiraiya. 99 Immortal Fukasaku and Immortal Shima first bowed to the clone of Katsuyu who was summoned by Tsunade, and then gently waved their hands to Jiraiya. Since we have agreed to join Konoha, then help is due, responsibility. Not to mention, it's the holder of the Eye of Reincarnation again, it's just right for you to summoning us over to love. Maybe from him, we can find a way to deal with those 2 monsters. Advertisement. The 2 toad sages naturally have a tacit understanding as a husband and wife, and you are not procrastinating. 0. For flowers. As for the information in their words, it is worth pondering, not to mention the major news that Mount Myoboku, who was badly damaged and died in battle with the Great Toad Sage, asked Konoha. Just their current attitude towards Nagato shows their hatred towards the 2 brothers and sisters Otsutsuki Hi and Otsutsuki Moon before. But in any case, with the presence of these 2 immortals at this time, the battle is about to start. At this time, everyone present also has a preliminary understanding of the samsara eye, so when they fight at this time, they will naturally not make the mistakes they made when they fought for the first time. And the target of his attack was the Nagato who wanted to leave. On the other side, Tsunade also resolutely removed the 100 healings mark on her body, and the lines symbolizing the mark of Baihao spread all over her body along Bai Chan's face, and her figure broke the ground under her feet with 1 foot, in front of Conan. As for the final Sarutobi hidden sword, it was quite miserable. He was naturally unable to understand Sage Jutsu, so at this time he could only summon his own summoning beast and ape demon, turned into a Vajra stick and entangled with Sasori. The first is Immortal Fukasaku and Immortal Shima. These two are obviously holding back a sigh of relief because of the previous incident in Mount Myoboku. At this time, when they make a move, they're directly Sage Art Gomon with great lethality. As for Namikaze Minato, the last wife who is eager to protect his wife, at this time, he is a fisherman without hesitation. As for the last Orochimaru, although it did not receive the complete Sage Jutsu lineage of Ryuji Cave itself, the 10,000 serpents as its summoning beast naturally had a lot of Sage Jutsu chakras in it. So I saw that the snake scales on its body suddenly sloughed off at this time, and the sloughed snake scales turned into a series of cold scale darts and flew towards Yahiko. On the one hand, Wan Snake is a summoning who rages on himself with traditional abilities, but on the other hand, he has to act according to the contract. Orochimaru, you ask me to deal with the owner of the Eye of Reincarnation. You be ************ D. Sage Art Gomon. 100 healings mark release seal of 100 hundreds. I saw 2 toads, one spitting oil, the other absorbing wind, and Jiraiya in the middle also entered the mouth of Sage Mode and spewed fire, and the scorching flames blocked Kakuzu in the sea of fire almost instantly. The secret legend of Dragon Earth Cave Sage Art, the art of snake slaughtering coal. The art of summoning ape demon Wuyi Diamond Stick. Point 0. The art of flying thunder god. They invariably gave up ninjutsu and chara in favor of turning sage jutsu and taiju on the offensive side. Thank you for reading this story at fictionzone.net. Yo chapter 166 I finally found you, kid, 2 quarters, please subscribe. Shen Luo Tianzheng. In the face of Namikaze Minato's blocking blow, Nagato's expression didn't change, and he didn't even stop moving forward. So in the next moment, the invisible repulsion force immediately crushed the kunai in Namikaze Minato's hands into powder and sent it flying out. Boom. Namikaze Minato's figure instantly knocked down several trees below, and blood spurted out from the corner of his mouth involuntarily. Looking at the huge smoke and dust below, Nagato maintained his usual high cold attitude and did not have the nature of making up his sword. I originally thought that I might invite the old guy from the Jingling court, but now it seems. The seal of the virtual circle seems to be longer than I expected, 93. But it's okay, after I capture all the tailed beasts, I will go to the old guy to settle the account. He is obviously still brooding about the defeat of 407 in the first battle of Jingling, and the fear of Yamamoto Uenujai Chongu in his words is also evident. But then, Nagato directly ignored Akatsuki Namikaze Minato and turned around again towards the place where Kushina was produced. But, Flying Thunder God Second Dan, Sage Art Zongila Pill. Just a moment later, along with Namikaze Minato's roar, his figure is once again on top of Nagato's head. He still has obvious bloodstains and quite hideous scars on his body, but at this time his face has already rhymed with stripes that symbolize Sage Mode. At this time, the huge Zongi Luobian pill in his hand was pressed towards Nagato. Well, 59 and Nagato raised his eyebrows slightly after seeing this scene, and his body was also slightly stunned for the first time. Even though he just turned sideways and easily avoided Akatsuki Namikaze Minato's blow with the help of his Reincarnation Eye's observation ability and his 6 paths level body, his eyes became a little sharper. Is it just to stop me from advancing when I resisted the blow Shen Luo Tianzheng just followed? What Namikaze Minato uses is the intergroup technique of Sage Jutsu plus Flying Thunder God, and if he has already used Shinra Tensai, he can naturally stop him from moving forward. But I have to say that if Namikaze Minato had used Sage Mode before, he would never have been so seriously injured in the first collision just now. To put it bluntly, Nagato could clearly smell Namikaze Minato's awakening from this one-on-one confrontation. Men always have something they have to protect. Concerning the lives of his wife and children, Namikaze Minato naturally changed his usual calm fighting style. At this time, the wounds on his body were still oozing blood, but he showed a slightly sinister smile. Advertisement. He was quite clear about the current situation. The Konaha ninjas present were not weak because of the help of 2 of Mount Myoboku's 2 foreign aides, Toad Sage. But with their strength, facing the other members of the Akatsuki organization who dared to attack Jingling head-on, it was okay, but if Nagato, the 6 paths level powerhouse, did it himself, then they would have no chance of winning. It can be said that it is extremely dangerous for any of them to face Nagato. But, at this time, he absolutely couldn't let Nagato leave. Therefore, Namikaze Minato also decisively chose to delay the 6 paths powerhouse himself. And Namikaze Minato, who knew the gap between himself and the opponent, had made up his mind from the beginning. He did not intend to leave the battlefield alive, nor did he intend to kill or defeat the opponent. At least, the people who have to be dragged to other villages will come, too. His only purpose is to hold back the enemy, and maintaining this kind of consciousness, Namikaze Minato even endured Nagato's blow Shen Luo Tianzheng abruptly, and then with the help of the Fei Lei Shen brand that was baked in advance, he attacked the ghost snail pill, which finally stopped Nagato. Action. Nice idea, worthy of being a disciple of Mr. Jiraiya. Nagato looked at Namikaze Minato and shook his head slightly. However, for the eternal peace of the ninja world, individual sacrifices are inevitable. Shaking his head and sighing, Nagato's figure also flew towards the hidden cave in an instant. Don't think about it, and Namikaze Minato also immediately used Flying Thor to keep up. But, boom! Just as Namikaze Minato used the Flying Thunder God to transfer to Nagato again, all that greeted him was Nagato's raised hands. His left hand clenched slightly, planetary devastation. So the next moment, the dark singularity is rising into the sky, and the rocks and various plants on the surface start to drag Namikaze Minato inevitably towards the sky. At the same time, several truth-seeking balls slowly flew behind Nagato, and one of the truth-seeking balls turned into a truth-seeking ball tin stick in an instant, and he and I were in my hands. And with the help of the truth-seeking ball tin rod to erase all the power of ninjutsu, the mark of the Thunder God left by Namikaze Minato was also erased in an instant. Damn! Advertisement. So Namikaze Minato can only grit his teeth, but he has no means to break free from the shackles of planetary devastation. I recognize your awareness, so please watch over there. 99. At this time, Nagato spoke softly to Namikaze Minato. The roar of the ants at the dragon is meaningless and cannot change the status quo of everything being burned. 59. And as a mortal, even with this kind of awareness, you can't delay God's footsteps. Along with the usual Chung 2 lines, Nagato's right hand patted down slightly. The art of summoning Ghetto Statue. 33. So just a moment later, the huge Ghetto Statue also burst out from the ground below. Boom. He knew that this would be the first step for his plan to really start smoothly. He would obtain 9 tails, the strongest tailed beast, and officially start his way of collecting tailed beasts. Everyone present was actually seeing the existence of Ghetto Statue for the first time, so at this time they didn't understand what this monster of summoning rhyme Nagato was talking about. Above the sky, a huge sound exploded in Nagato's ears like thunder. Thank you for reading this story at fictionzone.net. Your support enables us to keep the site running. The gigantic golem's inhuman stance and gigantic figure are daunting enough. Without further ado about the thoughts of the ninjas, Nagato 2. 6 a figure rhymes in an instant on the top of Ghetto Statue's head. And he felt that he had been transferred because he had now determined that there were indeed no members of the Godai 13 team around, let alone the goddamn Godai 13 team captain or the immortal Otsutsugi Yi. Roar. Feeling the close connection between the Samsara Eye and the Ghetto Statue under his feet, Nagato also spoke in a low voice. Then, let's go and capture your first power. Finally found you, kid. This time, no one can stop me, but they know that this is definitely not a good omen. Buzz. In other words. In particular, Ghetto Statue's ominous roar that seemed to finally be freed from the cage after being summoned, made the rest of the audience feel cold and shocking. The monster. What is it? But at this time. Chapter 167 Kaido, feel the gap between you and me, 3/4, please subscribe. The sound of a thunderous explosion came from above the sky, and along with it came the sound of real thunder. At the same time as hearing this voice, Nagato's expression suddenly became serious. Because of the sound he remembered. It was the bitter fruit that he swallowed the most before he abandoned the weak and innocent ideal, and it was also the opponent of a battle that changed his life. In that battle, he realized what kind of terrifying existence the invincible opponent was. And if he remembered correctly, the owner of this voice should be Kaido. Between whispers, he looked up at the sky. And sure enough, above the sky at this time, a giant dragon with a blue body was slowly fishing for the dragon head from the clouds. That majestic figure exudes strength and beauty, and the people below who were originally fighting were also stunned at this time. It's him. Konan and Yahiko had met Kaido before, so at this time, it was natural to recognize this monster that Hizashi had buried all 3 of them in the Land of Rain. But relatively speaking, the remaining members of the Akatsuki organization and Konaha's people also stopped the original battle at this time, and they all looked at the sky in horror. That's a dragon. Just like the first time Hanzo, the Kingdom of Rain, saw Kaido for the first time, he almost temporarily lost his ability to think. Compared to the Reincarnation Eye or the Truth-Seeking Ball, Kaido is undoubtedly a legendary life form. Love is the most shocking. Among them, Orochimaru's eyes are the sharpest. It really exists. As the successor of Ryongdi Cave, although he could not truly inherit the complete sage jutsu of Ryongdi Cave, he still knows the meaning of the existence of dragon to Ryongdi Cave. It symbolizes the final form that Longadong has been pursuing since ancient times, and it is a temptation that is enough to make one of the 3 places full of grapes. Advertisement, Blue Dragon. Could it be? However, the ninjas present had seen enough of the world for so long, so after a brief shock at this time, they instantly remembered the information given long ago when Zhang had not defected. And sure enough, as the huge cyan dragon descended from the sky, it turned into a tall giant. Really? So Sarutobi Hiizan's heart also secretly thought at this time, sure enough. This guy is the one that was mentioned in the previous report, Beasts, Kaido? Even though he was at war with Akatsuki at this time, Hiizan Sarutobi couldn't help but have various emotions in his heart. Because if the information is correct, Kaido should be one of the 4 emperors, corresponding to the Grand Line and the 5 elders. From the actual situation, Kaido is also the only 4 emperors that the ninjas have information on so far. As for the other 4 emperors, the ninjas know only one name at most. And now, the 4 emperors finally officially appeared in front of them. What is he here for? The enemy. So the atmosphere of the whole scene suddenly became weird. They also heard what Kaido said before, but they didn't understand the meaning. And now, the faction of the suddenly descended 4 emperors will become the key to truly change the balance of the scene. If he and the Shao organization are in a group, then the situation that Konaha and everyone can sustain now will undoubtedly collapse completely. But it was also at this time that the cage-level powerhouses in Konaha and the members of the Akatsuki organization who had never seen Kaido before heard the indifferent words of Nagato standing above Ghetto Statue. You still dare to ask in front of me? While this sentence rhymes, anyone can hear the hostility and indifferent killing intent. Hey, you little brat is so confident. You escaped by taking advantage of the chaos last time, do you think Lousy can't do anything about you? Facing Nagato's indifferent words, Kaido sneered as if provoked. Advertisement so Konoha's cage-level powerhouses couldn't help but feel relieved. Because from this sentence alone, it is enough to judge the fact that at least Nagato and Kaido had a feud. Feel the gap between you and me now, Kaido, in other words. Because according to Kaido, the last time he played against Nagato, Nagato seemed to choose to run away. 4 Emperors Kaido. Is it the 6 Paths level 2? Nagato snorted coldly, and the Ghetto Statue under his feet also made a huge roar. Nagato let out a low growl, and then Ghetto Statue raised his fist and punched Kaido. Roar. HMPH, I can't be compared to the original me now. With Nagato's current character, it is obviously impossible to explain too much. The fist containing the power of the truth-seeking ball is enough to annihilate the air it sweeps, and the huge power is extremely terrifying. Thank you for reading this story at fictionzone.net. Your support enables us to keep the site running. Seeing Kaido appearing in front of him, he had obviously given up his previous idea of going directly to Kushina to capture 9 tails. 6 Paths dress Ghetto Statue. Because in front of this enemy who had given him shame and fear, he naturally had to obliterate him first. And then, their hearts were slightly shocked. At the same time, there are 5 direct flying hooks in the truth-seeking ball behind Nagato, which are attached to Ghetto Statue like the armor of the exoskeleton. Then, Ghetto Statue burst out with huge energy under the manipulation of Nagato's Samsara Eye. The Konoha ninjas don't know how big the gap between Nagato's strength at that time and the current strength is, so at this time, they are only 407 shocked. Chapter 168 The Kaido puppet that stepped into the SSS level, Nagato's mentality collapsed. 4 quarters, please subscribe. For this blow, Nagato is undoubtedly prepared for a long time and has sufficient confidence. He also fought against Kaido in the Land of Rain in the past, and he is very clear about the strength of the other party. The strength that Kaido showed at the beginning, compared with him now, is definitely a police of the heavens. Not to mention, attaching the truth-seeking ball to Ghetto Statue to strengthen it is a new way of using the truth-seeking ball that he has come to understand after getting the help of his old friend, recently. With the annihilating power of the truth-seeking ball, the power of Ghetto Statue will definitely rise by more than 1 level. Nagato used to lose in the Ghetto Statue against Kaido in the Land of Rain, and this time, he is going to use this blow to declare his evolution and power. 10. Gap? Facing Nagato's confident words, Kaido burst out laughing loudly. Boy, where did your confidence come from? Or, do you think that in that battle, Lousy went all out? At the same time as the words fell, Kaido's body began to change. Fruit Awakening Dragon Man stance. For the first time since the battle on the moon, the perfect biological posture between dragons and humans has reappeared in the ninja world. The terrifying conqueror's haki crushes and breaks the trees on the surrounding ground like a giant dragon in an instant. The terrifying power even makes the surrounding Konoha powerhouses change their colors. Of course, if Otsutsuki Himura's remnant was still here and he remembered the last battle, then he would naturally find that Kaido's dragon figure was slightly different than before. If I had to say it, it would be Kaido's body. In addition to the original blue dragon scales, there are several more strange lines and stripes. And these lines are very similar to the eyeshadow that Jiraiya and Namikaze Minato hooked on after entering Sage mode. It's just that because Kaido's Dragon Man posture itself is quite different, those lines and stripes are not so eye-catching. Advertisement After turning into a dragon figure, Kaido also clenched his fist lightly, and then faced Ghetto Statue's fist with the blessing of the truth-seeking ball, and slammed it head-on. Boom! As a result, a huge shockwave swept through everything around in an instant, and even the 4 red sun formation, which seemed to never go out, was shattered by this terrifying collision. Countless fire and rain fell on the ground to form huge potholes, and the result of the battle was even more astonishing. Because Kaido's dragon figure is obviously much smaller than the 6 Paths golem, it has the upper hand in this blow. Wow! I saw that the truth-seeking ball wrapped in Ghetto Statue was cracked in Kaido's punch, revealing the body like a dry tree under the aura. Looking at the result of this scene, the Konoha ninjas present were also shocked in their hearts. Sure enough, 4 Emperors Kaido, also 6 Paths level. Especially Sarutobi Hiizaki, who had already had some information and understanding of Kaido before, had a secret thought in his heart at this time. In fact, Since Kaido himself has never really been in the field of vision of the ninja world, the only record in the country of Rain is said to have killed Hanzo of the Salamander in one move. But to be honest, this record is not enough to judge his true strength because Hanzo of the Salamander is strong, but a powerhouse like first generation or Madara can actually be defeated in a short time. Not to mention the 6 paths level powerhouses, although it sounds a bit disrespectful, Hiruzen Sarutobi is actually a little doubtful that first generation can survive a few laps in front of the 6 paths level powerhouses. So all along, the judgment of Kaido's strength is actually closer to a speculation. Because the world government 5 elders who are the equivalent enemies of the 4 emperors have now appeared 2 people, and these 2 people are all 6 paths level powerhouses without exception. So Sarutobi Hiizaki also secretly guessed that the 4 emperors should also be standing at this level. And now it seems that his guess is indeed correct. But on the other hand, Sarutobi Hiizaki didn't know. Advertisement on the other hand, Nagato is even more unbelievable at the power of the hook shown by Kaido, and it is extremely difficult to accept. Sure enough, the Dragon Man form of Fruit Awakening and Kaido in Sage Mode are enough to compete with a weaker opponent in the SSS class like Nagato. Nagato's mentality is undoubtedly causing him a little breakdown. This strong man who is not inferior to him, makes him feel that his ideal is extremely far away. He still hasn't found a solution to the oppressive feeling that Yamamoto and Otsutsuki have given him, and now another Kaido soldier has appeared. And now it seems that it is not too much for this inheritance to be rated as SSS rank. Kaido has almost reached the peak of SS rank with the aid of Fruit Awakening, and even the remnant of Yumura can be directly seconds. Boy, your eyes should be handed over to me this time. But this is the case, this kind of combat power is enough to make Kaido and Nagato, the weaker opponents in the SSS level, fight back and forth. At the same time as Kaido's voice fell, his huge figure swept through the air with an unimaginable speed of sonic boom, and in an instant he came behind Nagato. One after another, and now when it comes to physical enhancement in Sage Mode, he has a real SSS level combat power. Of course, this combat power is only reflected in physical strength. After getting the inheritance of the immortal body from Mount Myoboku, he naturally tried to use all his puppets once. So, thank you for reading this story at fictionzone.net. Your support enables us to keep the site running. After using it, he also found that puppets with strong physical bodies or close to melee combat have the best effect on the use of this inheritance, because this inheritance can actually strengthen the puppet's body, and the stronger the foundation is, the higher the level of reinforcement. But apparently, Kaido had no time to scruple Nagato's thoughts. What's Zhao? Of course he had a hard time accepting that because the pressure brought by the previous battle at Jingling had not disappeared until now. Lynn, who controls Kaido's puppet, is actually satisfied with Kaido's power. No. It's impossible. Chapter 169 Lousy wants a war. 1/4, please subscribe. Above the sky, the battle between Nagato and Kaido is undoubtedly very different from the previous battle with Yamamoto Motoyuzai Shigekuni. Boom. The huge mace in his hand was stagnant for almost no time, and every time his figure flashed, he constantly waved the mace to carry out a merciless onslaught. Every time he moved his body or swung his weapon, there would be a piercing scream that broke the sound barrier, and every time he swung the mace, it would bring the breath of dragon flames and the gleaming thunder, and every blow smashed down. It's enough time to annihilate a piece of ground out of thin air. On the contrary, Nagato occasionally counterattacks Kaido but doesn't even pay attention to it, except for the truth-seeking ball, which is theoretically enough to annihilate everything. Kaido needs to use the armed hockey attachment and the power of the fairy body to deal with it. Almost all of Nagato's attacks on Kaido are simply ignored. The repulsive force of Shinra Tianjung couldn't shake his legs at all, and the gravitational force of Universal Pull's seal was directly forcibly broken by him. If it is said that in the previous battle between Nagato and Yamamoto Uenujai Chongguo, the captain of Jingling can still be called self-restraint and grandmaster, then Kaido's battle is as fierce as -407 wild beasts. If Yamamoto's power can be said to be the perfect answer to skill and strength, experience, then Kaido is a pure display of his absolute physical strength. And in this completely unreasonable wild beast attack, the visual impact is undoubtedly huge. Compared with Kaido, although Nagato has also used the ultimate move of the Wheel Tomb, but the same principle as Yamamoto Uenujai Shigekuni's spiritual child, his Wheel Tomb clone is located in Kaido's observation haki, can also be sensed. Just like in Jingling, the fighting members of Akatsuki's organization unexpectedly turned into supporting characters who were spectating the battle. Especially the new members of the Akatsuki organization who had never seen 6 paths level powerhouses fight before, each had completely different ideas at this time. This is the 4 emperors. Sasori, who was hiding among the puppets, looked at Kaido, who showed his terrifying power, especially at the body that seemed to be the perfect marriage of strength and beauty, and his eyes shone with brilliance. This sense of oppression. On the other hand, Kakuzu felt the oppression from the conqueror's haki that filled the air, and he couldn't help but feel horrified. This kind of terrifying oppression gave him a feeling that was even stronger than that of the first fighter he had fought against. Hokage is even more exaggerated. Nagato was suppressed again. As for Konan and Yahiko, looking at Nagato and Kaido in the fierce battle, their expressions were worried and horrified. Advertisement especially at this time. Kid Hokage, what the hell is going on? Accompanied by a slightly suspicious roar, the elites of the remaining 4 ninja villages finally arrived at the battlefield at this time. However, since the battle between Akatsuki's members and the Konaha ninjas had already been interrupted, they did not join the battle immediately after arriving on the battlefield, but quickly met with the cage-level powerhouses of Konaha. And after the meeting, Namikaze Minato also watched the terrifying battle on the battlefield nervously, and quickly described the current situation. 4 Emperors Kaido. The expressions of the remaining 4 shadows changed when they learned that the existence above who was fighting with Nagato was the legendary 4 Emperors Kaido. Because of this, all the hidden forces that they have known so far have finally appeared corresponding powerhouses. Especially Kaido, they are more attentive. After all, when they were in Jingling, they had heard Yamamoto Uenujai Shigekuni mention that Kaido seems to be a very ambitious and dangerous guy for the ninja world. But at this time, seeing that Kaido was actually fighting with AGCG, Nagato, there was a subtlety in their hearts. The enemy of the enemy is the friend. Just like Jingling, maybe they can also try to communicate with Kaido and see if they can ask. But it was also at the same time that such a thought arose in Seeing's heart. UB**************. What do you want? The truth-seeking ball condensed into a pitch-black shield to barely block Kaido's blow, and while Nagato's body flew backwards, those purple reincarnation eyes were also staring at Kaido. At this point, Nagato couldn't help but feel troubled. After so many battles, his combat IQ has of course improved a lot, so at this time he can see the battle strength of both sides. In short, he and Kaido are 2 completely different types of 6 paths powerhouses. Advertisement: Kaido's power comes from the body and haki, while Nagato's strength lies in the power of the 6 paths level and the power of ninjutsu in various reincarnation eyes. Lousy wants a war. Hey, don't get me wrong, Lousy has no interest in the power of your eyes. Even if he gets the Eye of Reincarnation, he will be like him in the past, only the Eye of Reincarnation will drain his life force and it will be difficult to exert his full power. But there's a guy who wants to study your eyes, and Lousy and that guy have a bit of reading, so I came here to get your eyes. 93. An unprecedented grand war that has swept the entire world and involved all forces. Because even at this point in the fight, he doesn't know anything about Kaido's purpose, the only thing he knows is that the other party seems to be interested in his own reincarnation eye. At this time, Kaido also laughed wickedly. He pointed the mace in his hand to the sky, and the corner of his mouth showed an excited smile. And this 4 emperors, who knew that he was rude, wild and arrogant at first glance, had no intention of concealing his ambitions at all at this time. In this case, Nagato naturally felt a headache. But in fact, since both sides have the ability to be almost immortal, no one can win the other for a while. But this is also something that Nagato doesn't understand. He doesn't understand. Kaido is already a 6 paths level powerhouse, why would he still want his samsara eye? In Nagato's view, Kaido does not possess the power of all things or the constitution to activate the full power of the Eye of Reincarnation. Thank you for reading this story at fictionzone.net. Your support enables us to keep the site running. It's just that Kaido is incredibly powerful in physical combat, so he can suppress Nagato on the bright side. As for Lousy's ambitions, that would be interesting, wouldn't it? It seems that Nagato's power has been recognized by Kaido, and the 4 emperors no longer refer to Nagato as Little Devil at this time. Chapter 170: The Mysterious Man. Wangchen. 2 quarters, please subscribe. Madman. After hearing Kaido's words, everyone present, whether they were members of the Akatsuki organization or the ninjas of the ninja world, only had these 2 words in their minds. They can understand any ambition, any reason such as domination of the ninja world, or a desire for power is acceptable. But what is Kaido's reasoning? He actually wants to start a war that sweeps the world, and the reason is, it's very interesting. This kind of thought is undoubtedly a madman's idea that everyone present is incomprehensible. So the people in the ninja world also quickly abandoned the idea that they had been thinking about communicating with Kaido to try to work together. Because of Akatsuki's acting style, they can still see some rules, especially after knowing the story of the 3 Nagato from Jiraiya. They can more or less guess the reason why Akatsuki collects tailed beasts. But Kaido is different, this pure war madman, in a sense even more dangerous and terrifying than Akatsuki. And more importantly, what he said in his words. This kind of crazy guy is not the only one, but there are authors. A few other 4 emperors, or other forces. All of them could not help but have such thoughts in their hearts. But it was when their hearts were stirred by Kaido's words, and Nagato on the other side had completely murdered. Because of Kaido's words, what he touched was the absolute inverse scale that he couldn't accept no matter what. They know that the establishment of the organization and even all the actions of Nagato so far, the final point of what they have done is actually peace in the ninja world. So what Kaido said, to start a full-scale war that swept the ninja world, is undoubtedly an act that is completely opposed to Nagato's values. And what makes Nagato feel even more stunned is that Kaido really has the power of the 6 paths level that can overturn the situation in the ninja world. So, a guy like you shouldn't exist in the world. The pupil power in Nagato's samsara eyes suddenly exploded and grew to the extreme at this time, and at the same time, the power of the other Akatsuki organizations belonging to Samsara Eye was withdrawn by him after a while. Advertisement: several truth-seeking balls swirled around him, and Nagato's aura exploded to the extreme, so that even Kaido was instantly shocked by his huge pupil power. And taking advantage of this fleeting time, Nagato immediately retreated. Huang Quan, our agreement has changed. 99. Hook your hands now, kill this monster with me, and I'll give you the Shinigami face. He suddenly opened his mouth and snorted coldly. So apart from Konan and Yahiko, everyone present, including the other two members of the Akatsuki organization, was also stunned. The two new members of Akatsuki's organization were found by Konan and Yahiko not long ago and were recruited into the organization. So far, they don't really know the beginning and end of Akatsuki's organization. As for the other people in the ninja world, they all froze in their hearts while they were puzzled and looked around with an extremely vigilant attitude. Because of the meaning of Nagato's words, they can also hear it. There seems to be a guy whose name or codename is Wangchen. But it was also at this time. To everyone's surprise, Hizen Sarutobi, who was standing next to Namikaze Minato, started to cry out in pain. This shinobu is obviously suffering from unimaginable pain, so that even his body began to tremble instinctively at this time, and his legs were even weaker, and he knelt directly on the ground. Taste. The armor on his body that was originally used for combat was exploded by a huge force in an instant. Master Sarubi. At this time, the three of Jiraiya naturally wanted to move forward, and even Namikaze Minato, who had been seriously injured in the previous battle with Nagato, rushed over. But they were horrified to find that they couldn't even get close to Sarutobi Hibiki. They were separated by a considerable distance, and they were trapped by an invisible and strange repulsion force. The huge repulsion wall that appeared centered on Sarutobi Hizenzen seemed to be the repulsive force of Tensai and Samsara. Ability is generally indestructible. But at this time, they also discovered the source of the mutation in Hiruzen Sarutobi. That's not true, it was the Shinigami face that appeared on Sarutobi Hizenzen's body due to the use of the Rube seal during the previous battle at Nada Spider Mountain. 0 katakana middle dot 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 advertisement. In fact, they were all about to forget about this weird thing. Because this thing has almost no other extra effects except for the regular and quantitative absorption of Zara of Sarutobi Hibiki every day. But at this time, this strange Shinigami pattern exudes a strange red. The blood slowly seeped the grapes from the Shinigami pattern and then continued to flow to all parts of Sarutobi Hizenzen's body. And with the flow of blood, the lines such as Shinigami also became extremely evil at this time, as if they were alive. Thank you for reading this story at fictionzone.net. Your support enables us to keep the site running. And it was at this moment that the violent trembling on Sarutobi Hizenzen's body seemed to slowly subside, and an old voice that didn't belong to him came out of his mouth. He slowly got up, and at this time everyone was horrified to find that his eyes had turned into pure blood red color. As the old voice emerged, the trembling of Sarutobi Hizen stopped completely. The chakra that I have collected for so long will not be used up because of your single sentence. But obviously, Nagato didn't have the time to gossip with each other at this time. Obviously, his relationship with Nagato is just a simple questioning relationship. Huang Quan said coldly, and then raised his hand and pointed lightly at the shadows of the ninja world behind him. What do you want? Even from his words, there is no unpleasant rhyme. Even Nagato, the existence named Wangchen, seems to have some kind of innate disdain. Show your sincerity and talk to me about your work. Then, I'm going to be present with the souls of these ninjas and their chala. As soon as the words fell, his hand pointed to Kaido, who was not far away. Finally, I want that guy's body. 93 loss. According to the original agreement, first give me the face of Shinigami, lift the seal set by those two guys in the past, and I will be able to restore some of the power to sign a contract with you. 93. I don't remember that I had such an agreement with you. 0. It is clear that I am only responsible for helping you determine the location of the other party, and the follow-up questions will have to be discussed after you hand over Shinigami and the like to me. Ah, young boy. Chapter 171 Otsutsuki Wangchen. 3/4, please subscribe. Undoubtedly, what happened at the scene exceeded everyone's expectations. They can also naturally see that the current Sarutobi Hizen is obviously already occupied by another person. The key is that the words of the mysterious existence undoubtedly add a bit of mystery to his existence. Not only does he seem to communicate with Nagato on an equal footing, but he even seems to take a fancy to Chara and the ninjas who are present. The soul, and even more, the body of Kaido. And from the way he speaks, the ninjas can also draw an astonishing conclusion. That is the guy named Wangchen, who suddenly appeared, and it is very likely that he is also a 6 paths level powerhouse. But this mysterious man seems to have been sealed by 2 people in the past. UB**************. What did you do to Sarubi-sensei? And to say that there are only a few people who don't have much thought in their hearts at this time, 407, is a few cage-level powerhouses in Konaha, because Hiruzen Sarutobi has obviously been manipulated. The situation undoubtedly made them panic and angry. In particular, what this guy named Huang Quan said directly showed why the Shao organization knew the location of their secret stronghold, Obviously, this was caused by the guy in front of him tipping off. What have you done? Huang Quan controlled Sarutobi Hiizan's body and sneered. I just got back what I deserved. After he signed a contract with me, his soul became my private property. It's better to say that I let him continue his activities in the ninja world for so long, and you should be grateful to me for continuing. As his words fell, Namikaze Minato's expression changed dramatically. As a personal experience of the first battle of Nash and Spider Mountain, Namikaze Minato almost immediately thought of an almost impossible fact from Huang Quan's words. You are the Shinigami sealed by the Uzumaki clan? As the husband of Kushina, the princess of the Uzumaki clan, Namikaze Minato is obviously very aware of the origin of the ghoul seal. To perform this art, you need to use your own soul as a bargaining chip to sign a contract with Shinigami, who is said to be sealed in the country of Vortex. Judging from Huang Quan's words now, the opponent is undoubtedly the legendary Shinigami, who occupied Hiuzen Sarutobi's body with the power of the contract. The Uzumaki clan. But Huang Quan sneered. I'm not the kind of inferior aboriginal seal. As he spoke, his words seemed to be full of anger and resentment. But it doesn't matter, I can feel that those two guys are still in the ninja world, and I will recover my debt sooner or later. After he finished speaking, he ignored everyone in the ninja world and looked directly at Nagato. So, what's your answer, little guy? Advertisement, absolutely. At this time, Nagato is also secretly communicating with Ju in the dark through the ability of the Reincarnation Eye. Nagato, this guy is dangerous, even Sage of Six Paths back then. It can never be more dangerous than Kaido. And Nagato is decisive. In his opinion, Kaido, who threatened to drag the entire ninja world into war, is the most dangerous person in the real ninja world. In Nagato's heart, the degree of danger has even surpassed that of Jingling, that captain. After all, although Jingling gave him the humiliation of his defeat, judging from the current situation, it could be regarded as a neutral order force. But what Kaido said just now is undoubtedly a lunatic. Shock, he's a lot more dangerous than this guy named Kaido, 99. On the other hand, Ju was also scolding in his heart. Of course he knew the details of that yellow spring, because it was his mother Kagaya and another mysterious powerhouse who was no less powerful than his mother who sealed this monster in the past. However, the existence of the mysterious powerhouse was only conjectured, because his mother Otsutsuki Kagaya never explicitly mentioned the other's name or even its existence. And this time, the reason why he dared to provoke Nagato to find Huang Quan's intercourse is because there is really no way. What the ninja world is showing is too outrageous, so he will continue to make this decision. But even with all kinds of hesitations in his heart, there is absolutely no way to tell Nagato the real situation. After all, his and Nagato's goals are essentially different. However, according to what my mother said, she destroyed this guy's body in the past, but because of the opponent's ability, he couldn't wipe out his soul, so he had to seal him in the end. After so many years of seal, even if this guy lifts the seal, his power will definitely not reach its heyday. Ju thought to himself, and finally made a decision. Buzz. So I saw his figure suddenly hooked on a tree trunk below. And from his hands, a strange silver-white grimace mask was thrown into Nagato's hands. It was him who attacked Namentang. At this time, Namikaze Minato also naturally understood that from the information he received not long ago, the mysterious person who attacked Namito should be absolutely. And the reason why he attacked Namito is obviously for this mask called Shinigami's Face. Advertisement, I agree to your terms, Huang Quan. Nagato is also holding the silver-white mask, however, I have to make sure that our agreement is valid. Of course, at the same time as seeing the silver-white mask, there was also a hint of fiery and excitement on the face of Sarutobi Hiizan. Contract ninjutsu, Otsutsuki Yellow Springs. Especially after feeling the power in the grimace mask, Lynn, who was controlling the Kaido puppet, was instantly stunned. There is no doubt that this surname is enough to spark countless conjectures. At this time in 2.6, Lynn, who was controlling the Kaido puppet, naturally would not let this unexpected situation develop at will. The power is too huge, and even Kaido's physical strength is stagnant at this moment, and it is difficult to move at all. This is Kaguya's power. On his body, the bright red blood light filled the air and formed a strange light connection between him and Nagato. But what terrified them even more was the name that Sarutobi Hiizan called himself at this time. And watching this scene, everyone present naturally knows that this is some kind of contract signed with soul and flesh. Six Paths seal unlocked. So with the huge thunder sound, Kaido held the mace in his hand and waved it towards Nagato and Sarutobi Hiizan. And from the cracked mask, the huge power of all phenomena blows everything around. In my name, Otsutsuki Wangchen, I never break my promises. Thunder 8 trigrams, but it was also at this time. With the burst of pupil power in Nagato's Reincarnation Eye, the silver grimace mask in his hand cracked and shattered instantly like glass. Chapter 172 There's no soul in his body. 4 quarters, please subscribe. At this moment, Lin's mind was really confused. Because the current situation is completely out of his understanding. If Nagato's appearance is something he has already predicted, and the subsequent battle with Nagato is also among his masters, then this guy who calls himself Otsutsuki Wangchen is completely clueless after he is hooked. Because in all the information he knows, there is no such name at all. From the first time the other party appeared, Lynn originally thought that this was the backhand left by Kaguya. But now, he clearly sensed the chara belonging to Kaguya from the shattered Shinigami face. This made him a little confused. If the face of Shinigami was his seal as this Otsutsuki Wangen said, then wouldn't it be Kaguya who sealed him? Is this guy one of the star disasters the Great Toad Sage speaks of? So Lynn also had a bold guess in his heart. That is this guy, perhaps the star disaster mentioned by the Great Toad Sage before. Lynn guessed at the time that the so-called star disaster was probably the result of the conflict with Kaguya, that the Otsutsuki clan sent someone to investigate the death of Otsutsuki. And this suddenly hooked Otsutsuki Wangen, in Lynn's opinion, is a description of the 06 Fu Pavilion star disaster. Kaguya couldn't kill him either, so he sealed his soul? Lynn didn't know that his guess was very close to the truth, and in fact he didn't have extra time to continue the analysis. Because at this time, along with the literal shattering of Shinigami, another huge mutation occurred in the body of Saba Hiizan. Boom! The huge chara and the strong power of all things spread out from Sarutobi Hiizan's body, and then his body began to mutate. Taste. Yesterday. 92 on top of his head, sharp horns rose in an instant. At the same time, the black circles that had been looming in his red eyes also began to become incomparably clear. Sarutobi Hiizan's body began to rhyme with the unique white robes of the Otsutsuki clan, and it was extremely clear in comparison with his crimson reincarnation eyes. Yes, just for a moment, Sarutobi Hiizan seemed to have completely transformed into another middle-aged man with a cold face and red eyes of reincarnation. And this picture also easily reminds Lynn of the last battle in the original work. In the last battle of the original work, Kaguya also occupies Madara's body in a similar way, and uses Madara's body resurrect as a medium. A skill unique to the Otsutsuki people of the outer world? Lynn murmured in his heart. Old age has no potential to speak of, what a weak body. Advertisement on the other side, Otsutsuki Wangen, who had successfully lifted the seal and was resurrected, seemed to be very dissatisfied with the weak body provided by Hiizan Sarutobi, and at this time he also shattered in a low voice. His eyes swept slightly to the ninjas below, as if they were beasts looking for prey. Huang Quan. The police forgot the contract. At this time, Nagato looked at Otsutsuki Wangen coldly. HMPH. Don't worry, I don't need you to say I'll hook, 97. And after Otsutsuki Huang Quan heard the words, he snorted again, and then his eyes turned to Kaido. It's really strange. The body without a soul is so powerful, just like the guy who woke me up before, 93. Without a soul? After hearing Otsutsuki Huang Quan's words, Nagato was also stunned. Well, this guy doesn't know what species it is, and there is no soul in his body. Otsutsuki Huang Quan's red eyes seemed to be able to see through some kind of weirdness in Kaido, and he nodded at this time. And in his eyes, the brilliance is also extremely sharp. So many bends, get rid of him with me. And Nagato frowned slightly, but then put aside Otsutsuki Huang Quan's statement. He doesn't care about Kaido's physique. After all, in this ninja world, regardless of the blood and other things, special people, but there are more. But Nagato didn't know that Lynn, who was controlling the Kaido puppet at this time, really broke out in a cold sweat. Nagato didn't know what Otsutsuki Huang Quan meant, but Lynn himself knew it. Kaido is not a human being, but a puppet, and a puppet certainly doesn't have a soul of its own. And what Otsutsuki Huang Quan said, the guy who woke him up, Lynn naturally knew what it was. That must be the Black Death of Otsutsuki Huang Quanyan, who was summoned by the ghouls as Shinigami during the Battle of Nash and Spider Mountain. This guy's ability. As a result, Lynn also had an unprecedented murderous intention in his heart at this time. He doesn't know what Otsutsuki Wangshen's ability is, but he can be sure. This guy seems to have the ability to see the soul directly through the body. In other words, this guy is a huge threat to Lynn's identity secrecy plan. Once he looked at Lynn's other puppets, he would sooner or later discover the commonality of these puppets, and maybe even deduce Lynn's existence from this. And there is no doubt, now that this guy has just broken through the seal and is obviously a little weak, this is the best chance for Lynn to make a move. It was also when Lynn's heart was filled with murderous intentions. Why didn't Nagato and Otsutsuki Huang Quan not have murderous intentions in their hearts? Ultra. Universal Pull. Advertisement. The first one to do it was Nagato, and I saw that his hands were very formal and held towards Kaido. Then, a powerful suction force that is dozens of times stronger than the normal universal pull comes instantly. The huge suction force even made the entire hill not far away fly into the sky at this time and attacked here. At the same time, Kaido stepped on the ground with all his strength. Boom. The huge force cracked the ground instantly, and his legs left deep ravines on the ground under the huge suction. And it was at this time that Otsutsuki Wangshen's attack had already arrived. Touch of Samsara 407, his red eyes of reincarnation suddenly merge. The next moment, from below the ground Kaido had stepped on, a crimson light seemed to shine from the abyss. And from the crimson light, countless pairs of blood-red arms protruded from it, and then grabbed Kaido's legs tightly. This is what surprised Lynn was that even with Kaido's strength enough to flatten a mountain with 1 foot, he couldn't hurt those strange red arms at this time. At this time, the figure of Otsutsuki Wangchen has come to Kaido. Then, your body belongs to me, he chuckled softly. However, just when he was about to perform some kind of magic to take Kaido's body. Kaido, your situation looks a bit ugly, doesn't it? Slightly narrow whispered words are undoubtedly not big. But the strange thing is that these soft words came into everyone's ears strangely at this time. At the same time, the complexion of Jiraiya in the crowd changed dramatically. He turned his head and was the first to see the man who had been standing above the sky for some time. Exquisite in eerie black robes, short black hair and black eyes, and a pair of glasses of Nasman. It's him. And Jiraiya also recognized the rhythm instantly. Another mysterious person who suddenly appeared was the one he had met in the Yilei ramen shop before. Chapter 173 The Power of the King of Ghosts. 1/4, please subscribe. Along with Jiraiya, the other ninja heroes naturally looked at the strong man who suddenly appeared above the sky. But at this sight, they were immediately stunned. Because in the sky at this time, there is not only sky. Along with the mysterious glasses man, there was also a huge space rift. The space fissure is slowly closing, but at this time, part of the posture of a huge city can still be faintly glimpsed from the space fissure. The appearance of the city has an indescribable twisted surface, and the lines on the city walls give people a huge twisted cat feeling just at a glance. The shape of the entire city is completely inconsistent with the laws of physics of the pavilion. The upside-down ridge is equipped with tall columns, twisted walls and windows on the ground. The whole of the city seems to symbolize ramen itself. Even just looking at this huge city, the powerhouses of the ninja world felt a little groggy in their heads. That city. At this time, Namikaze Minato seemed to recall something faintly in his mind while looking at this shocking picture, but it was unreal and it was like seeing flowers in the fog. He felt that he had seen a place similar to this city in his memory, but he couldn't remember it for a while. Compared to Namikaze Minato, the other strong ninjas were only shocked at this moment. Although they already think they know a lot of the truth of the world, the mysterious characters that appear one after another are undoubtedly impacting their worldview. First was Akatsuki, then Kaido, one of the 4 emperors, and then Otsutsuki Wangchen who suddenly occupied his and Sarutobi's body, and now a brand new character has appeared out of nowhere. By the way, isn't this nearby Konaha's hidden facility? Why does it seem to be a vegetable market that everyone can find? Who is this guy? At this time, looking at the mysterious man in black with glasses, the heroes of the ninja world were also full of curiosity in their hearts. Judging from the words the other party just said, it was clear that he and Kaido knew each other. But at the same time, the man's tone didn't look like Kaido's subordinate, and his words were more about embarrassment than worry. But in fact, there is no need for the powerhouses of the ninja world to think too much. Because the next moment, Kaido's words almost directly named the other party's identity. Advertisement. Stop talking about useless things over there, we are allies. Come and help me solve this guy. When Kaido spoke like this, everyone present was shocked. Without him, because of the name Kaido mentioned. Coming. This name is not unfamiliar to everyone in the ninja world. Because no matter which ninja village, so far, this name has been firmly engraved in the ranks of absolutely dangerous, and no matter which ninja village is regarded as an enemy. Because of this name, it symbolizes the king of a terrifying group that lives by cannibalism. Moreover, unlike the imaginary clan that was temporarily sealed in Hueco Mundo, the owner of this name has not been sealed yet, and it is clear that some huge conspiracy is still going on in the dark of the world. He is the King of Ghosts, Lynn. The heroes of the ninja world understood each other's identity, but at the same time they were extremely shocked. Because no one could have imagined that the appearance of the King of Ghosts would look like this, an ordinary person who looks gentle and even wears glasses. King of Demons. At this time, Namikaze Minato, who also knew the identity of the other party, also suddenly realized. He understood where his previous strong sense of déjà vu came from. He did see the city in the sky, but it was only a glimpse, and what he saw was the interior of the city rather than the panorama. That city is Infinite City. After realizing this in his heart, Namikaze Minato's heart also became heavy in an instant. Kaido's question is actually the King of Demons? Clearly, neither of the two parties intentionally concealed the fact that they had interfered. And the point is that Kaido's plan to drag the whole world into war was already wildly insane. If his target is really a ghost family, then this matter can be directly transformed from madness to horror. One of the two sides is a war madman who obviously only wants war, while the other is the king of ghosts who feeds on humans. And if you take into account the Void clan, who have already asked about the Oni clan. Advertisement, Ninja World. No, the whole world is in danger. This terrifying thought flashed through Wu Ying's mind almost instantly. But it is clear that at this time, neither Lin nor Kaido have time to pay attention to these weak worms in the ninja world. Don't worry, Kaido. We are friendly friends, and of course I will help you. The mysterious king of ghosts showed a faint smile on his face, but his eyes were cold as ice. Looking at the countless blood-red arms that held Kaido tightly and the Otsutsugi yellow spring in front of Kaido, he gently stretched out his hand. Imagination realization space intervention. He was just a fisherman waving at Otsutsuki Wangchen. The next moment, the space around Otsutsuki Wangchen was shattered at this moment. Boom. 99 The space tear caused by the space fragmentation ripped Otsutsuki Huangquan's body into countless pieces in an instant, and also tore and shattered the countless blood-red arms together. And Kaido's figure also took advantage of this moment to get rid of the constraints of the blood-red arm. However, only in the next moment, the self-healing characteristics of the space will repair the broken space again. But soldier, wow. Space can repair itself, but people who are torn by space cannot repair themselves. So at this time, I saw that Otsutsuki Huangquan's body also reappeared with the repair of the space, but it was already torn into countless tiny fragments in an extremely brutal way. It can be said that, just this shot, this brutal picture has made all the strong men in the ninja world stunned. Tearing and breaking space into pieces, this kind of power that is completely beyond the hook, naturally makes them incomprehensible. There is absolutely no way in the time-space ninjutsu that they know that any spell interferes with space to such a degree, and it is difficult for them to imagine what they can do in the face of this blow. Is this the power of the Demon King? Chapter 174 The level of the Six Paths level powerhouse. 2 quarters, please subscribe. Looking at the terrifying picture of Otsutsuki Wangchen's body being torn apart in an instant, the ninjas also sighed. This powerful and cruel method can only be said to be the style of the King of Ghosts. But after a while, accompanied by the flickering of blood-red rays of light, a phantom also slowly rises from the void. From the outside, that phantom is also the Otsutsuki Wangchen who was torn to pieces not long ago. And with the phantom of Otsutsuki's yellow spring, the originally torn flesh and blood on the ground also disintegrated impressively, and then turned into one after another of flesh and blood essence and reintegrated into his body. With the integration of the essence of flesh and blood, Otsutsuki Huangquan's body gradually turned from virtual to solid, but it returned to its previous appearance in a moment. It's awesome destructive power. However, at this time, Otsutsuki Huangquan looked at Yi Lin's expression very seriously. As the target of the blow just after, Otsutsuki Huangquan was naturally more aware of the terrifying power of this blow than anyone present. 423 put it bluntly, if it weren't for his special ability, then the blow that ripped apart the space might be enough to kill him. But Yi Lin didn't have time to chat with him, he just stretched out his hand again. Imagination Realization Space Intervention. As always, the power is displayed, and the space fragmentation as always is accompanied by the cruel picture of blood and flesh. But just a moment later, the phantom of Otsutsuki Wangchen was reproduced in a similar way. Truth-seeking ball slash. But at the same time, Nagato also came to Yi Lin's back at some unknown time. Buzz. The 3 truth-seeking balls gradually turned into 3 black blades on the top of his head. At this time, they also slashed directly at Yi Lin's head, back and legs. But in the face of Nagato's blow, Yi Lin didn't even look back. Advertisement, Imagination Realization Double Sky Shield, 9. Accompanied by the whispers in his heart, silently, a shining shield completely enveloped his whole body. Boom. A GCG. And even the truth-seeking ball, which can theoretically annihilate all Zara creations, is unable to move forward even when it touches this position. Immediately after, Yi Lin gently raised a finger to reach Nagato's hook. Fantasy Realization Destruction of Death Light. So from the tip of his finger, a gleaming light shot out towards Nagato. And that ray of light is not composed of Zarira at all, but composed of energy that contains pure destructive power. Boom. Naturally, Nagato stretched out his hand and turned the truth-seeking ball into a shield to try to block the blow, but after a while, he was hooked by this huge force. On the other side, Yi Lin also turned his attention to Otsutsuki Huangquani and Nagato. He now has the heaviest killing intent for this guy. Imagination Realization 1 trillion degree Fireball. Fantasy Realization. Boss Thunder. So as his hands were raised, the space was burned to the point of the twisted giant great fireball and countless pitch-black thunderbolts. Hooked now in the evening sky, and with Yi Lin's wave, the 2 huge energy objects were thrown out in an instant. Boom. So the next moment, the luster of destruction spreads from the sky. The huge fireball and the pitch-black thunder did not land on the ground, but exploded directly in the sky. Then I saw the clouds shattered, and the boundless shock waves spread across the sky, pushing the entire cloud layer away to the unreachable sky. Advertisement: the crystals of countless flames and thunders condensed in the sky, like stardust flying. The scenery turned out to be extremely beautiful at this time. But no one present was able to rejoice at this so-called beauty. Because they can clearly smell that the ultimate beauty contains the ultimate destruction. If this terrifying blow falls on the ground, I am afraid it will be enough to bring them together with Konaha not far away. Transpiration into the purest molecules. They used to be the so-called masters of the ninja world, and under the big picture shown in the real world now, it seems that they can't even be ranked. In other words, because they found out at this time that the number of 6 paths level powerhouses they knew beforehand actually needed to be judged using the quantifier, badge. At this time, they also have this simple word as their evaluation of the King of Ghosts, who can almost be said to be 1 against 2. And you must know that these 2 are truly 6 paths level existences without exception. So strong. As for the latter, although Kaido, one of the 4 emperors, is also at the 6 paths rank, his strength is obviously a notch lower, and I don't know how strong the other 4 emperors are. From the current situation, the Spirit King of Jingling and the Commander-in-Chief are superior in strength, and there seems to be a gap in the strength of the 5 elders of the world government, but the strongest one must have similar strength to them, the Hueco Mundo. Although the strength of the King and the Ghost King in front of him is not as strong as that of the Spirit King, they should be on the same level. Since his arrival, each of the so many moves he has used in a row has an amazingly powerful power, and even completely suppressed Nagato and Otsutsuki Wangchen with 1 against 2. Thank you for reading this story at fictionzone.net. Your support enables us to keep the site running. What made them feel even more sad was that among the batch 6 paths level powerhouses, none of them belonged to their ninja villages. They have also seen the battle of the 6 paths level powerhouse, but there is no doubt, no 6 paths level powerhouse's suppressing power can be as terrifying as the King of Ghosts in front of him. Just as there is a clear gap in strength among cage levels, they think that the 6 paths level powerhouses may have a bigger gap than they thought. In addition to the leader of the Ghost Killing Squad, if there is no accident, this group of people should be a relatively strong group of 6 paths level powerhouses. And then, it's Nagato organized by Akatsuki, the remaining 2 immortals from the 3 great immortal lands. Everyone present couldn't help but have such guesses. During this careful reading, everyone present was completely unhappy. Even among the 6 paths level powerhouses, the King of Ghosts probably belongs to the extremely powerful group. Chapter 175 Wangshenchuan Crimson Abyss, 3/4, please subscribe. Of course, the heroes of the ninja world secretly judged that the strength of the 6 paths level powerhouses was roughly divided. But they also know that even the weakest 6 paths level powerhouse is enough to easily pick any of their ninja villages by themselves, and it takes the entire ninja world to ask questions to be able to compete with them. So they also understand. The battle on the field now can be said to be an inevitable disaster for them. Because I forgot, although Akatsuki and Otsutsuki Wangchen are now enemies with them, the King of Demons and Kaido are similar. No matter which side of the 2 sides wins, it is not a good result for them. But on the other side, so strong, 9, Lynn, who put on the Superman's glasses, and put on the new King of Demons, was actually lamenting his current strength just like everyone in the ninja world. Although he has long known that the skill of imagining can be said to be a bug level skill, after actually using it, he can really feel its Q level. Whatever I think, whatever I see, is true in this world. If this effect is placed on other people in this world, it is not bad. After all, limited by the vision of the world itself, the ninjas in the Hokage world can't break away from the big world pattern no matter how imaginative they are. However, Lynn is different. As a traveler, the explosion information and countless works in his mind are enough to make his fantasy become a real bug-level skill. For example, previously, he used the space interference from the Moon World, the destruction of the Pokemon World, the 1 trillion degree fireball of Ultraman World, and the Sekiro World, the Thunder of Bar. He does not know these skills at all, and he has never even extracted rhyme from the traditional, but he can successfully use rhyme with the help of imagination to realize the ability to achieve everything. What is this concept? This is equivalent to having the skill of imagination realization, which can be directly equivalent to having countless skills. And as long as these skills themselves do not essentially violate the basic laws of the world, then the energy consumed by Lynn using these skills will not be too high. To be more direct, with the realization of fantasy, even if I put it in the SSS class now, I am afraid it is a very powerful group. Advertisement, even if it's not as good as Kaguya who took the fruit of Senra, it should have the power to fight. Until this time, Lin Shang clearly felt how exaggerated the jump in combat power obtained by this ability was because of the realization of fantasy. It must be known that even if he had been working with his own primordial puppet before, after Kankan fought back and forth with the Great Toad Sage, the final victory had to rely on the puppet's advantage and Uebach's temporary puppet material. But now, he feels that he may be able to compete or even gain the upper hand with the Great Toad Sage alone. But even so, Buzz, looking at the phantom of Otsutsuki Wangchen who was slowly recondensing the hook not far away, Lin's expression was also a little strange. Weird abilities. He can be sure that his previous attack definitely hit Otsutsuki Huangquan. But obviously, the ability of this guy suspected of being Otsutsuki clan is very special. This kind of strange ability that turns into a blood-red phantom can obviously evade his attack. When this guy was sealed up before, his identity was Shinigami of the country of Vortex. Could it be that his ability? However, when he thought about the identity of the other party, Lin had some guesses in his heart. But at the same time, Lin also noticed something strange. That is, Otsutsuki Wangchen turned from the phantom state to the flesh again at this time. While looking at Lin's expression, it seemed like a burning flame. This ability. You guy. Thinking that if you change your body, I can't recognize you enough. A person who betrayed the clan, 99. Changed from the calmness that he used to face Nagato before, and the eloquent disdain for other people in the ninja world. The roar of Otsutsuki Huangquan at this time was full of hatred, and he seemed to want to live. The hatred of its flesh. 0. Ask for flowers. The shame that has been sealed for the past few years. I will return it to you now. Advertisement. After hearing Otsutsuki Huangquan's words, even Nagato who released him was stunned, let alone the ninjas below. This guy seems to have a story with the King of Ghosts? Could it be that the person who sealed him in the past was the king of ghosts? Among them, especially Yi Ju was the most surprised. It was the king of ghosts who sealed this guy with my mother back then, 99. The information that Otsutsuki Wangchen suddenly burst into rhyme is really amazing. He knew that this monster was sealed by Kaguya and a mysterious power in the past, but Kaguya never told him who the mysterious power was. But now from the attitude of Otsutsuki Wangchen, it seems to be the king of demons. The king of ghosts and mother know each other, even if it is absolutely, at this time, I can only be stunned. It was even said that it was absolutely impossible. At this time, the most confused person was Yi Lin himself. God is pitiful to see, he is the clearest one. This is definitely the first time he has seen Otsutsuki Huangquan, where is he going to seal him? But obviously, Otsutsuki Huangquan, who was angry at this time, obviously did not intend to communicate with Yi Linduo anymore. In his blood-red reincarnation eyes, the dazzling red light spread in the sky in an instant. And the sky where there were no clouds and birds because of the previous battle, turned into a blood-red abyss in an instant. What was even more terrifying was that the sky seemed to have truly become Akatsuki's substance. At this time, and even the crimson brilliance seemed sticky and terrifying. From the boundless blood-red abyss, countless ghosts of different shapes and incompleteness also slowly crawled from the blood-red lake. Wangchenshuan Crimson Abyss.